This is Father Bob Warren of the Franciscan Friars of the Atonement. Thank you for listening to this rebroadcast of the Ave Maria Hour radio show. The Friars' popular Ave Maria Hour was first brought to the radio airwaves in 1939, recorded in New York City and on the mountainside grounds at Graymoor, our home in Garrison, New York. These timeless classic stories of the Bible and the lives of the saints came to life each week through dramatic reenactment by professional actors and actresses. You know, friends, Christ once said, "Do not hide your treasure under a bushel." In saying this, he meant share your gifts, share your talents. The Friars of the Atonement feel the message in these broadcasts remains as powerful and timely as when they were originally aired, and we are so happy to be able to share them with you today. To learn more about the missions and ministries of the Friars of the Atonement, I invite you to visit our website, www.atonementfriars.org. In the meantime, sit back and enjoy this rebroadcast of the Ave Maria Hour.
Today's story deals with Matthew 6:19, when Christ spoke about true riches.
The land is torrid most of the year, tropical. The rains are heavy when they come. But mostly the sun shines and palm trees and jungle vegetation glisten under deep blue skies. I know this land well. I know its people. They are good people, and they love their church. And they love God and the Mother of God. Most of them are poor, and so the words of our Lord bring them comfort.
And I say unto you, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where rust and moth consume, and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither rust nor moth consume, nor thieves break in and steal.
There are, or there were, many Americans in this land. I am an American priest, born of Latin American parents in the city of New York. But I've lived in this tropical land for so many years that it seems like home. Sometimes a priest feels he belongs to no country, but only to God and the service of God. This philosophy hasn't always set too well with some of my American compatriots. One in particular, Grant McAllister. McAllister lived in a great, rambling old Spanish mansion surrounded by tropical parklands. He was wealthy, immensely wealthy. He had little time for me. But he felt he had to invite me to his home on occasion.
Another 5 years and I'll sell out. And I'll never want to see this horrible country again.
Why wait 5 years?
Well, I want to cash in on my investment.
You're a very rich man already. What do you need with more?
Oh, that's what makes the world go round, Father. The profit motive. For a guy like me, it means achievement. For a guy like me who started from nothing, it means something, Father, to be able to buy and sell anybody I want or don't want, and to live like a prince. To have people bow and scrape and beg favors from me, yes, sir, that means something.
Only I wonder just what it does mean, my son.
Well, it means I can make or break politicians. I can buy them. And it means I was able to marry a woman like Isabel.
Yes, you do have a lovely wife with a splendid background.
Yes, sir. Isabel could have had her pick, but I was the one who got her. You ought to know you married us.
Yes, I remember.
Father, you don't approve of me, do you?
One has to approve of ambition, but afterwards one has to question what ambition can do to some men.
And you don't like what you think it's done to me, eh?
No, I suppose not.
Well, at least you're honest. You know, that's what I like about you. But I'm honest, too, in my own way. Maybe not in yours, but in mine. I don't draw any punches. I like money. I like power. And it makes me feel good.
And beyond that?
Beyond it? Well, what do you mean?
With all your money, with all your power, how much influence do you think you can buy in heaven? How much influence do you think you have over God?
Oh, come now.
Someday you'll die. And maybe on that same day, the poorest man in the world will die. Now, let's assume that very poor man has loved God all his life. Do you think you'll be in a better position than he is? You, who have given more homage to power and riches than to serving God?
You make me sound like a pagan, Father.
The pagan worships false gods. Then so do you.
You're the only man who could talk to me this way, you know. I get a kick out of it.
You see, a poor man who devotes his humble life on this earth, storing up riches in heaven, is far more practical than a man like you.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's go into dinner, Father, shall we?
Very well.
You didn't eat very much, Father.
I'm afraid my conscience wouldn't let me, Isabel.
Conscience?
Well, when I look at all this food set on this table, I find myself thinking of my poor people in the village. Suddenly, I have no appetite.
I know. We do what we can for your people, but I suppose it's never enough.
Never enough? The way she distributes baskets of food in that village, you'd think she was feeding an army.
Well, the people are grateful to her, and they share what they get with each other. The poor are very generous and very hospitable.
Sure. What have they got to lose? Nothing.
Whereas a rich man like you has everything to lose.
Okay. Let's go out on the terrace and have coffee.
Grant, did you hear something?
No, it was nothing.
Father, did you hear it?
One often hears it. Lately?
It was way up in the hills on the other side of the jungle. The sound carries at night.
But they're fighting somewhere.
They're always fighting. Revolutions are a dime a dozen in countries like this. They don't mean a thing. Now, you take this bandit they've got holed up in the mountains. Suppose he should defeat the government troops. So what? Suppose he takes over the country. So what? Nothing's going to change. He'll be just like any other dictator. I get along with this one, I'll get along with the next one. That's the way it goes in a place like this. See what I mean?
The weeks passed. Every day or so, we heard the news over the radio or over the public loudspeaker in the village square. News of scattered fighting in the jungle or up in the hills. But in a land like this, we grow accustomed to this sort of news. As Grant McAllister had said, revolutionary movements are commonplace. As for me, I had enough to do making my rounds and attending to the affairs of my poor little church and trying to keep cool under the blistering sun.
Hello, Father.
Isabel.
Oh, you walk so fast.
I shouldn't in all this heat.
It is hot.
And you, with a cool lake, a swimming pool, and an air-conditioned palace, you spend almost as much time in this village as I do.
Well, perhaps my conscience bothers me.
Well, it shouldn't.
Father, it is good to be here. Somehow I wouldn't want to be blind to the needs of people who don't have as much as I do. I have money, but money would have no meaning for me unless I could do something good with it.
Well, you could write a check.
Oh, it's easy to write a check, but that wouldn't satisfy me. I want to be among these people. I want them to know that someone cares.
Have you noticed anything different about them today?
Yes, Father. There's something going on, isn't there?
Has anyone said so?
No, not to me.
But you do feel that something's in the air.
Yes, don't you?
There seems to be a great air of secrecy everywhere.
And fear.
Yes, that too.
Father, have you any ideas?
Oh, an idea, but that's all.
The bandit?
People don't seem to regard him as one. They see him as a potential liberator.
Perhaps he is.
Perhaps. The days passed. Days when we heard rumors and counter-rumors. A big battle was being fought somewhere deep in the jungle. The radio said the government troops were winning. But it was whispered in the village and in the jungle that all was not going well for the government soldiers. Many were deserting and joining the bandit.
Isabel, you understand? You heard what I said?
I heard.
Stay away from the village. Stay here where you belong.
Grant, what's wrong?
I don't know. But I don't like what I hear.
Well, what do you hear?
Well, I've got channels. I hear things. I get news before a lot of other people get it.
But what do you hear now?
Well, the way I get it, the government troops have taken a beating. And about 5,000 peasants have joined the bandit. And they're all armed.
You're worried.
Yeah.
Why? I thought you said it didn't make any difference to you who came into power.
Well, maybe it won't make any difference. Sometimes you can't tell. This bandit's making all kinds of crazy promises. If he gets in, he may have to keep them.
Well, what is he promising?
Well, it's not what he's actually promising. It's what lies behind his promises. He's talking reform. He's going to reform everything.
But the country needs reform.
Yeah? Well, years ago, somebody started a reform movement in Mexico, and they wound up confiscating all American interests.
Oh, I see.
One thing I'm sure of, I'm going to get as much cash as I can lay my hands on and get out of this country fast, just in case.
Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where rust and moth consume, and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither rust nor moth consume, nor thieves break in and steal.
The long centuries that have passed since our Lord spoke those words have not dimmed their deep significance. I thought of these words so often. I thought of them particularly when, while coming out of the church, I saw Grant McAllister stopping his car. He looked worried.
Good morning, Father.
Good morning, Grant.
And what do you hear?
Much less than you do, my son.
Things are going bad for the government.
Does that mean they may be going well for the people?
Maybe some people think so. They'll find out.
Oh?
I got word last night to meet somebody this morning. One of my friends.
Friends?
Well, a man like me in a country like this, I have to keep informed. I have to have friends.
I see.
Well, I've just come back from meeting this fellow.
And what he told you worries you?
It scares me.
You have news about the bandit?
Father, you won't like it any more than I do. But he's playing footsie with the communists.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. That may mean disaster if he gets into power.
Oh, I doubt it. It may mean difficult times, but not disaster. I doubt if the communists can destroy God. Nor can they destroy God in the hearts of these people. Nor can they destroy the Mother of God.
I'm not talking about the church.
No, I didn't think you were.
I'm talking about me, people like me.
What's so unique about you and people like you?
What?
You exist in every walk of life. Not everyone like you is rich. Most of them aren't. Where you count $1 million, most of them count just a few thousand, some just a few hundred. But there's no difference between you. Each one of you is dedicated to the storing up of the almighty dollar. Becomes the basis for all your thinking, the beginning and the end of all consideration.
Oh, now look, Father.
No, you look. This is a good time to look. Because now, if not before, you're haunted by the possibility that someone or some set of circumstances will take away what you've stored up. And to you, that's a disaster. The fact that you ignore God is not a disaster.
I didn't ask for a sermon.
Sermon? To you, the word has a connotation of sorts. Yet, after all, what is a sermon? Simply the Word of God. Simply an appeal to follow the teachings of our Lord.
I should have known I was wasting my time talking to you.
Well, waste a little more, Grant. You waste so much on other matters.
Thanks. Only I've got other things on my mind. Yeah, that's right, Father. Other things, like money, like material possessions. And while I stand here listening to your sermon, do you know what's happening?
Yes, I believe I do.
Maybe 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 peasants, all armed to the teeth. Most of them bandits by this time, are figuring on taking over this country.
That alarms you?
Yes, it alarms me, and you know why? Because if they take over this country, they'll take over my property. Yes, that alarms me.
It's natural that it should.
Now, don't tell me you can see my side of things.
No one likes to think his property can be confiscated.
Well, it can be.
I hope it doesn't happen, my son. It came days later. The collapse of the government. The dictator fled from the country, and the victorious bandit leader at the head of his bearded legions entered the capital, a few miles from my village. It was a big day, a noisy one, and it occupied world attention as the people hailed their liberator, their new dictator. Passed, the celebrations continued. But behind the scenes, the sinister pattern of bloody revolution went on. Grant McAllister received a midnight visit from one of his so-called friends, a man named Raul Martinez.
All right, let's have it, Martinez.
There is to be a big anti-American drive, senor. Your name is on the list. You are to be arrested, detained, held on espionage charges.
What? You're crazy.
The country is crazy, senor. But what I have told you is true.
Espionage charges?
The purpose, Senor McAllister, is to hold you here and prevent you from liquidating your holdings before the new government can confiscate them.
So that's it.
You had better hide, senor. You and your wife, until I can find a way to get you out of the country. It will do you no good to be arrested and put in jail. A lot of things can happen to a foreigner in these times if he is put in jail.
Isabel, there's no time for questions. Just pack a few necessary things and your jewels, nothing else. And let's get out of here, fast.
All right, Grant.
It was almost 2 a.m. when Grant McAllister and Isabel came to my little rectory. I was still up, listening to the radio. I turned it off after letting my visitors in.
Well, that's the picture, Father. And it smells to high heaven.
Well, take this chair.
Thank you, Father.
It's a laugh. Imagine me, a refugee. A fugitive.
Would you like a little wine?
Yeah, I could use a drink or something.
Isabel?
No, thank you, Father.
Some coffee, then? I doubt if you'll sleep much tonight anyhow.
I'd enjoy some coffee. Let me make it, Father.
Well, you know where the kitchen is?
Yes, I do.
Here, my son. Drink this.
Thanks. Well, you're taking everything very calmly. They'll be after you next.
I won't be the first priest they've been after.
Only you've got nothing to lose.
No, I suppose not.
Unless they put you in jail as a spy.
Other priests have been jailed.
For 2 weeks, I've been trying to move cash out of the country. 2 weeks. Nothing doing. Red tape. And when I say red, I mean red. This country's going communist. They'll rob me of every dime I've got here.
Well, you and Isabel should be reasonably safe here for a day or two anyhow, but you must stay indoors and don't show yourselves.
Yes. I I guess you're taking a chance, too, Father. Hiding us, I mean.
I can do no less, my son.
Oh, the whole thing is crazy. It's like a nightmare. Who'd have thought anything like this could happen? I just can't believe it. It's not legal, Father. I've worked and I've slaved in this country. I've invested a fortune here, and now they're going to steal it, steal everything I've built up. It runs into millions, and they want to steal everything I've got.
Everything? They can't steal everything, my son. Nothing they can steal from you could buy you a place in heaven.
Here we go again. Oh, Father, I'm sorry, but my immortal soul can wait. Right now, I'm worried about more realistic things.
Realistic things. Money that buys power and luxury. And Grant McAllister thought his immortal soul could wait. He had no time for his spiritual self, no time for God, no time to contemplate on the true values of life and living. 2 nights later, his friend came to see him.
There will be a boat waiting. It will take you and the Senora to Key West. There you will be safe.
If we get there. If we're not spotted.
Chance you must take, Senor.
All right. When?
Tonight. Now. The police are looking for you. Sooner or later, they will think to look for you here.
All right, I'll be ready in 5 minutes. I'll tell my wife. And I've got to leave everything here. Everything. My house.
Hurry, Senor.
Goodbye, Father. Oh, I wish you'd come with us.
My people are here. They're going to need me. Good luck, my son.
Thanks. And thanks for hiding us, too.
Come, Senor. Come, Senora. We must hurry.
Raoul led them through the night, through scrublands and tropical marshes, until they came to an isolated part of the coast that overlooked the beach.
Look out there.
A gunboat.
You must wait until it is out of sight.
It's not moving.
No. So you must wait.
Maybe they're waiting for me. Maybe somebody tipped them off.
There is always that possibility, Senor. Now, listen. The boat is waiting for you down there, between those big rocks. It is a fast motor launch. You can trust the 2 men you will meet, but do not try to reach the motor launch until the gunboat is gone. They may be watching this part of the beach. Goodbye, Senor.
What?
I must go. I can do no more. And I have a wife and children. Good luck, Senor. Senora. Adios.
Goodbye, Raoul. And thank you for everything.
And so they waited, hidden in the high grass. Grant McAllister and his wife Isabel.
Grant?
Yeah, honey?
What are you thinking about?
Oh, I don't know.
You know what I was thinking? How unimportant our money is at a time like this. All that really matters is for us to make things right between ourselves and God. Oh, Grant, it's a sin to forget God in our search for riches. A sin to act as though the comforts we can buy on earth are more important than what God has promised we can find in heaven.
You sound like the priest.
Do I? Listen, darling. Suppose we both died this very night trying to escape from here. Would we be ready to come face to face with God? would we? Do you remember reading what Christ once said?
Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where rust and moth consume, and where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither rust nor moth consume, nor thieves break in and steal.
Do you remember?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. Maybe it makes sense, honey. Maybe it does at that. Yeah, maybe it makes all the sense in the world.
The Grape Nuts and Grape Nuts Flakes program, coming to you from New York City and starring Jack Benny, with Mary Livingston, Phil Harris, Dennis Day, Rochester, and yours truly, Don Wilson. Back in the dear dead days when folks put on long linen dusters to go scorching over the roads in a brand new horseless carriage, yes, way back then, delicious, malty-rich grape nuts were making a hit at American breakfast tables. And they've been making a hit ever since. Today, you can enjoy that one delicious flavor in two delicious forms. Grape nuts, crispy, crunchy kernels, and grape nuts flakes, delicate, toasty brown flakes. Both have a malty, rich, sweet as a nut goodness that's absolutely distinctive. A flavor with punch and zest that makes breakfast a high spot of the day. And grape nuts and grape nuts flakes are both Basic 7 foods, or they supply all-around whole grain nourishment. Our government wants us to eat more of such cereals, for they're plentiful, not rationed, and they help to take the place of scarcer foods. So for real energy-giving nourishment, plus rich, unusual flavor and texture, make it grape nuts or grape nuts flakes in the morning, every morning. And now, ladies and gentlemen, say, Mary, are you sure it's all right?
Certainly. Isn't it, Phil?
Sure. Go ahead, Don.
Okay. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for the second broadcast of the season, we bring you the First Lady of Grape Nuts, Miss Mary Livingston.
Thank you. Hello again. This is Mary talking. And, Don, the reason I asked you to introduce me is because Jack's out in the hall talking to his new writers.
His writers?
Not so loud, Don. Not so loud. You know, people think I ad-libbed this stuff here, you know. I'm one of them spontaneous men.
Oh, I'm sorry, Phil.
Say, Mary, how's Jackson since he got home?
Oh, Phil, it's simply awful. Since he got back from North Africa, that's all he talks about. He absolutely drives you nuts.
Are you kidding?
Kidding? You want to know something? Jack's a bigger ham now than he was before he left.
No, don't do that to me. I got a wife and baby. Maybe two.
No, it's the truth, fellas. This military stuff has really gotten into Jack's system. Gosh, how he'd love to be a general. What a guy.
I can't understand Jack wanting to be a soldier. Wasn't he in the Navy in the last war?
Yeah, but he was in the Army the war before that. Oh, and there's one thing I gotta tell you, kids. You'll never believe this.
What is it, Mary?
Yeah, tell us.
Oh, it's so fantastic.
Well, then go ahead, tell us. What is it?
Well, yesterday morning, while Jack was shaving, he cut his cheek.
Yeah?
And ever since then, he's been calling himself Old Blood and Guts. Oh, he's impossible.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's Jack now, out in the hall.
1, 2, 3, 4.
What you doing, drilling?
Either that or counting his hair. Who knows?
Say, Mary, do you think I ought to go out and get Jack away from these boys?
No, I'll go. And I hope he's forgotten about his African campaign.
Hup, tup, trup, 4. Hup, tup, trup, 4. Hup, tup, trup, 4. Riders, halt! Present pencils. A fine bunch of comedy writers. Recruits from the Allen program. Rookies, every one of you. Just look at you. Balzer, pull in your typewriter.
Yes, sir.
And Josephsburg, your pencil. Look at that point.
That's my head, sir.
I mean the one with the eraser on it. And Tackerberry, where's Howard?
He went AWOL to Red Skelton, sir.
He did, eh? Now, listen, men. This is no picnic, you know. You got a job to do, and I'm going to see that you do it. And you. Look at you with your hair hanging down in your face. I never had that trouble with Bill Morrow.
But, sir, wasn't he bald?
That's beside the point.
That's my head, sir.
And I had another writer with me for 8 years, Eddie Boulogne. Do you know where he is now?
In the sanitarium, sir?
Now, cut that out, Balzer. All right, men, you can go downstairs to your room now and write next week's program.
Yes, sir.
About face, forward, march. Hey, look out for that window! Well, I guess they're all right, darn it. Oh, boy, 35 weeks of this.
Well, it serves you right.
Oh, hello, Mary.
If you'd stop acting like a top sergeant in the movies, you wouldn't have so much trouble. Now, come on in, Jack. The program's half over.
Okay.
Well, here he is, fellas.
Hello, Jack. We've been waiting for you.
Hiya, Jackson.
At ease, men.
Shall we line up for inspection?
Not now. Play, Phil. You see, Mary, I have to discipline the boys. That's the important. That was People Will Say We're in Love, played by Phil Harris and his orchestra. And now, ladies and gentlemen...
Hey, Jackson, Mary tells us you've gone military since you got back from Africa. What's the idea?
What do you mean?
Well, she says the Army life has gone to your head.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Ridiculous? Didn't you try to buy an officer's uniform with 2 pair of shoulders?
Mary, Mary, it was just a buck private's uniform. And I had a hard time finding one.
Well, let's go into a lot of trouble just to get in the movies for half price, Bub.
Phil, gags like that put you in Fred Allen's class, and he's not working. Right now. Anyway, as long as you brought it up, the part of the Army I'm interested in is the Air Corps.
There you are, fellas.
I really am. I'm interested in the Air Corps.
Last night he brought down 6 flies with a spray gun, so now he's an aide.
I brought down 7 and 3 probables. If you're getting out communiques, sister, get them right. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for our... Come in. Yes?
Hello, Mr. Benny. Remember me from last week? I'm the cab driver that brought you into the airport.
Oh, yes, certainly. Yeah, your name is...
Crowley.
Yes, I remember. You have a brother over in North Africa.
Yeah, Joe's a corporal.
Yes. Oh, of course, certainly. Corporal Crowley, yeah.
I can't understand you not running into him. He was in Africa at the same time you were.
Well, look, buddy, I told you last week, I saw so many soldiers. I mean, how would I know your brother?
Well, a couple of months ago, we got into a debate with an MP and lost 3 front teeth.
Well, it just so happens that every soldier I saw had all his front teeth.
Then you probably seen Joe. He had a bridge put in.
Look, Mr. Crowley, I know how you feel. I mean, you've got a brother who's a corporal in the Army, and you're proud of him. I'm proud of him, too. I mean, but how could I pick out among thousands and thousands of men?
Well, his draft board did.
Look, Mr. Crowley, look, I know, but we've got a program to do. I'll talk to you later. Just take a chair and sit down over there, will you?
Okay.
Thank you. You know, Mary, he's a nice guy, and I can understand how he feels, but what can I do?
What's that?
My writers, they finally thought of a joke.
No, fellas, no! Oh!
One of them didn't like it.
He will next time.
You said it, huh? You know, Mary, guys like that, hello, Dennis.
Hello, Mr. Benny.
Well, how are you, kid?
Fine, sir.
Dennis, you don't have to salute me in the studio.
Yes, sir.
And you don't have to call me sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Dennis, look, just act natural, you see, but don't overdo it,
Okay. Say, Mr. Benny, you must have a very funny program. As I was coming in, I heard people laughing and screaming.
Well, that wasn't the audience, Dennis. That was my writers.
Well, they're people, aren't they, Miss Livingston?
I'm not so sure about the one that's got his ears tied in a bow.
Mary, he has to tie them. There's a bobby pin shortage. Anyway...
Say, Mr. Benny,
Yeah?
Do you think you can get one of your writers to relieve me this evening?
Well,
Relieve you of what, Dennis?
I'm on sentry duty in front of Mr. Benny's room every night.
Dennis, it's just until...
Isn't that awful?
Well, listen, kid, you don't have to stand there all night. When Jackson goes to sleep, why don't you beat it?
Oh, I don't dare. He's got his bed pushed up to the door, and he keeps peeking at me through the keyhole.
Dennis, stop exaggerating, will you? And let's have your song.
Okay.
Gee, you'd think that...
Cracks his knuckles a lot. Funny you didn't hear him.
Who?
My brother, Corporal Crowley.
Look, you told me about his knuckles last week. Now, look at Crowley. Won't you please... Hey, those writers are really on the beam. I'm going down and see what gags they've dreamed up. Excuse me, kid.
All right, Dennis. While Jack's gone, you might as well do your song.
Okay, Miss Livingston.
Oh, hold it a minute. I'll take it. Hello?
Hello, Miss Livingston. This is Rochester.
Hello, Rochester. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you, Miss Livingston?
Oh, I'm all right.
That's good. Can I speak to old Blood and Guts?
You mean Mr. Benny?
That's what they called him before he cut himself.
Rochester, has he been giving you that military stuff, too?
Has he? He won't let me out of the hotel room without a 3-day pass. You know what else, Miss Livingston?
What?
He made me sew 4 stars on his nightgown and a service stripe on his BVDs.
Well, that's the silliest thing I ever heard of.
So far.
Well, Rochester, Mr. Benny just stepped out, but I'll tell him you called.
Thanks, Miss Livingston. I'll be right over to pick him up. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Now, let's see. Where'd I put my helmet?
A service stripe on his BVD.
Okay, kids. Hey, let's get on with the show.
Say, Jack, what were your writers laughing about? Did they think up some good gags for you?
No, they were listening to a record of Burns and Allen. Sing, Dennis. A fine bunch of guys I've got. Say, he does look funny with his ears tied in a bow at that, you know? He really does.
Dear, your tenderly smiling face. Through days are bitter and gray and grim. Through nights when even the stars are dim. Sweet to know my heart can glow from just the warmth of our first embrace. A world so lovely, a world by far. When how sweet you are. How sweet to know my heart can glow from just the warmth of our first embrace. The world so lovely, a when I remember how sweet you
Very good. That was How Sweet You Are from that sensational film, Thank Your Lucky Stars, presented by the famous Warner Brothers and made by that talented and lovable producer, Mark Hellinger, making a happy combination.
Jack, what are you worried about? You're signed for your next picture.
Oh, yes.
And sung by Dennis Day.
That's right. I'm sorry, kid. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Sung by Dennis Day. That lovable tenor with the golden voice.
Thanks.
And do you good folks know why Dennis has such a sweet and golden voice?
No. Why?
Because he eats grape nuts and grape nuts flakes, thereby enjoying one delicious flavor in 2 distinctive forms. Isn't that right, Dennis?
Yes. Grape nuts are so crunchy, and the flakes, they are so munchy, that I always eat a bunchy for my breakfast and my lunchy.
Dennis, how about dinner?
Thanks. Are you sure I won't be intruding?
No, you won't. And bring your own grape nuts. And now, folks, for our feature, come in.
Mr. Benny?
Yes?
Brown's the name, John Brown. I'm a reporter for the Associated Press. They sent me over here to get an interview.
Well, I'm always glad to see the gentlemen of the press. Great bunch of boys.
Don't give me that, chum. I hate this as much as you love it.
Well, Mr. Brown.
I want a story and you need publicity, so start talking.
Well, look, Mr. Brown.
I got to make a deadline and you want to see your puss in print.
Well, Mr. Brown.
Now tell me about your trip. Where did you go? What did you do?
Well, to tell you the truth, fellow, I don't want to brag.
But you will. You will.
No, Mr. Brown, I'm not bragging at all. I was in Central Africa, Cairo, the Persian Gulf.
Yes.
I was also in Sicily, Italy.
Were you in Tripoli?
Yes.
Casablanca?
What did you say, mister?
I said, were you in Casablanca?
Was I in Casablanca? Let me tell you a story, Mr. Brown. Come closer. This will be interesting. Very interesting. Casablanca in 1939. Across the Mediterranean to Oran. Then by train or camel or foot across the rim of Africa to Casablanca in French Morocco, where some men sell their souls for a passport, but others wait and wait and wait.
Casablanca, the crossroads of the world. The scene is Ricky Bogart's nightclub, where the high, the low, the fallen, and the mighty gather to see this man of mystery, Ricky.
Closing up for the night, Mr. Ricky. Better come on with me. You've had enough to drink.
No, Sam. I want to stay here and brood. I want to brood, Sam.
What are you brooding about?
You know what it is. It's her, Sam. Ingrid. When we split up in Paris, she left me. She left me, Sam. Left me a sad and broken down old man.
That's the way she found you, boy.
Oh, Ingrid. Ingrid. I thought I'd gotten you out of my mind. But you come back like a ghost, haunting me. Haunting me. But I won't take you back, see? I won't do it.
If Humphrey Bogart's listening, it doesn't get any better.
Sam, play that song for me again, will you, kid?
What's the use, Mr. Ricky? It only brings back memories.
I don't care. Play it.
Say, my brother was in Casablanca. Maybe you saw him there.
Look, Crowley. Crowley, not now. I'm having trouble with a girl. Just sit down, Crowley. Sit down, pour yourself a drink, will you?
Okay, thanks.
Ingrid. Go ahead, Sam. Play that song. I want to hear it once more.
You must remember this. A kiss is still a kiss. A sigh is just...
That's it, Sam. Sing it, boy.
The fundamental things apply as time goes by.
As the time goes by. Sing it, boy. Sing.
And when two lovers woo, they still say I love you. Oh, cock-a-doodle-doo.
The fundamental things apply as time goes by.
As time goes by.
What a song. What a song, Sam. It tortures me. It tortures me, but I love it. Here, Crowley. Crowley, have another drink. Sing it, Sam. Sing it.
Moonlight and love songs never out of date.
Hearts full of passion, jealousy, and hate.
Woman needs man, and man must have his mate.
That no one can deny. Attaboy, Crowley. Say, Crowley, haven't you got a brother up here in... Haven't you got a brother up here in North Africa?
Yeah, how did you know?
I met his brother in New York. He's a cab driver.
Never heard of him.
Me neither. Sing it, Sam. Sing that song that keeps breaking my heart. Sing it.
You must remember this. A kiss is still a... Mr. Ricky! Mr. Ricky, look!
What is it, Sam?
Look in the doorway. It's her. It's her.
Ingrid. My Ingrid.
You must remember this. A kiss is still a kiss. I saw you just a sigh.
Ingrid, my darling.
Ricky!
Ingrid, and you came back to me.
The fundamental things apply
as time goes by. And you, Mr. Brown, you asked me if I was ever in Casablanca. Play, Phil. Friends, I'd like to take just a moment to tell you something about the wax. They're making a tremendous contribution to victory. I know their spirit and courage, their immense pride in their jobs. And they have a right to be proud. The trouble is, there aren't enough of them to do all the things that need doing. So won't you give some serious thought to joining up? The WAC uniform is a mark of rare distinction. It's the uniform of the greatest army in the world. Now, maybe you don't realize this, but there are 155 different kinds of jobs open right now in the WAC. Well, out of 155 jobs, you can certainly find one that will suit your own special abilities. So think it over. You can go to your local WAC recruiting station and get all the details. You know, every woman who joins the WACs helps to bring victory closer, helps to bring our American boys back home quicker. And that's something we all want to do.
Remember the old-fashioned way of learning the alphabet? A is for apple, B is for books. Well, today it's different. A is for adequate, B is for breakfast, and G is for grape nuts and grape nuts flakes. Two grand cereals for your adequate breakfast. You know, nutrition experts tell us breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and at that time, we should get at least 1/4 of our entire day's nourishment. And what's more, they say a cereal supplying whole grain nourishment is a must in the adequate breakfast. Well, you can't do better than choose grape nuts or grape nuts flakes. They taste so good, moldy, rich, and sweet as a nut. And grape nuts and grape nuts flakes both bring you whole grain food values. So there, in one swell, tempting treat, you're getting a wonderful start on your day's nourishment needs. Grape nuts and grape nuts flakes are thrifty, plentiful, not rationed. Better make them a breakfast time habit at your house. Grape nuts flakes.
We're a little late, so good night, folks. Thank you.
Hot grape nut sweet meal. There's a treat as is a treat. Try a bowl of this rousing, rich, hot brown cereal, and you'll say it's the best ever. Has a gloriously smooth, full-bodied texture. Has the rich goodness of roasted whole wheat. has the grand whole grain nourishment. And grape nut sweet meal cooks to perfection in just 3 minutes. That's hot grape nut sweet meal.
This program came to you from New York. This is the National Broadcasting Company.
KFI, Los Angeles, Earl C. Anthony, Incorporated.
The makers of Campbell Soups present The Campbell Playhouse. Orson Welles, producer.
Good evening. This is Orson Welles. It's been my custom on opening these Sunday Campbell Playhouse shows of ours to talk about, in the order named, A, our offering for the evening, and B, our guest star. My task tonight is relatively easy. Our offering is our guest star, Mr. Jack Benny. Mr. Benny, not exactly unknown to the airwaves as a comedian and violin virtuoso, has consented tonight to make his radio debut as an actor, pure and simple. It is his art, I hasten to add, which is pure. It is the character he plays who is simple. Tonight, for the first time since I've been its producer, we've opened the doors of the Campbell Playhouse, opened them to admit as our guests a few hundred of Mr. Benny's fans, whom Mr. Benny at least numbers in millions. We bid them a sincere and hearty welcome. And if Mr. Benny behaves himself tonight, the silence of the Campbell Playhouse will remain, as always, undisturbed. Granted, of course, that tonight's specialty is no particular invitation to sobriety on the part of the giddiest guest in our career. June Moon by Ring Lardner and George S. Kaufman is advertised as his vehicle. Until just now, at least, it's always been one of my favorite plays. Now, for just a minute or so, while Mr. Benny gets in the mood, Ernest Chappell, who is in the mood, has something to tell us about a discovery he's made. Mr. Chappell?
Thank you, Orson Welles. Perhaps it's hardly to be called a discovery. The other night I was browsing through the diaries of the great and greatly human Englishman, Samuel Pepys, when I came upon this entry in the year 1665.
All morning at my books, which I have had new bound. Then with Sir W. Penn in his carriage to the Lord Chancellor's. We were there regally entertained, dining upon a vast dish of chickens of most excellent sweet meat.
And so we have evidence, if indeed evidence were needed, that the taste for chicken was as keen in the year 1665 as it is with most of us in 1940. Now, I'm sure it must be our continued liking for chicken that has made this country take so wholeheartedly to Campbell's chicken soup. One after another, families have tried this chicken soup and found it rich in chicken flavor clear through, from its golden surface to the very bottom of the plate. They've seen how its broth fairly glistens with chicken richness. They've enjoyed the fluffy rice and tender chicken meat in every plateful. They've told others how much they enjoyed Campbell's chicken soup, and so its popularity has grown and continues to grow. Have you tried this deep-flavored, home-like chicken soup of Campbell's? Won't you enjoy it tomorrow? I promise you, just as sure as you like chicken, you'll like Campbell's chicken soup. And now, Orson Welles opens our Campbell Playhouse presentation of June Moon, starring Jack Benny.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's story is all about the big city. To quote O. Henry, the fair but pitiless city of Manhattan. In this big city, large and sudden things happen. You round a corner and thrust the rib of your umbrella into the eye of your old friend from Kenosha, Wisconsin. You stroll out to pluck a sweet William in the park, and lo, bandits attack you. You stand in the bread line, marry an heiress, and take out your laundry, all seemingly in the wink of an eye. You travel the streets, and a finger beckons to you. A handkerchief.
Oh, Orson. Orson.
You travel the streets, and a finger beckons to you, and a handkerchief is dropped for you.
Oh, Orson.
A handkerchief is dropped for you. A brick is dropped upon you. The elevator cable or your bank breaks. A table d'hote or your wife disagrees with you, and fate tosses you about like cork crumbs in wine opened by an unfeed waiter. The city...
Orson.
What is it, Jack?
I've only been here 1 minute, and he's discussed it already. Never mind.
The city is a sprightly youngster, and you are red paint on its toy, and you get licked off. Of such red paint is our story's hero. Now aboard a fast train, speeding through the night toward this greatest of cities, this Baghdad. Down the aisle of a parlor car, a candy butcher is just wending his way.
All right. Oh, now, wait a minute, Orson. Just 1 minute.
What is it, Jack?
If you think I came all the way over here to play the part of a candy butcher, you're nuts.
You're not playing the candy butcher, Jack. I play the candy butcher.
Oh, pardon me. What am I playing?
Jack, you're playing the leading man.
Oh.
You're the love interest.
Oh, the love interest?
Yes.
Ah, I see. I'm the leading man, huh? Well, what am I beefing about? Let's get going.
Cigarettes, magazines, candy, cigarettes, a magazine, miss?
No, thank you.
Candy?
No, thank you.
Candy, mister?
You got any Fritzy Wootsy rolls?
I sure have.
How much are they?
15 cents apiece. How many?
15 cents for Fritzy Wootsy rolls? None.
Excuse me, mister. Didn't you ask me did I have a Fritzy Wootsy roll?
Yes.
And then you asked me how much?
I was just making conversation, that's all. Hey, now, wait a minute, Orson. Look, let's stop this right here. Look, Orson. No, wait. Look, Orson. I'm afraid this part doesn't fit me. It's not my character. I'm not a tightwad. No.
Well, Jack, you're an actor. Just throw yourself into it.
Oh, all right. Fine party gave me to play. I'll try.
Candy, cigarettes, magazines, newspapers, miss?
No, thank you.
Candy?
No, thank you.
Cigarettes, candy.
Oh, miss. Hey, miss, would you care to look at part of my newspaper?
Oh, thank you, but I don't think so. Thank you.
Thank you. Thought you might want to read.
No, thank you.
Well, we're due in New York at 10:03.
Yes, I know.
You got on at Hudson, didn't you?
Yes.
I seen you. Now, there's another thing, Orson. Look. Now, wait a minute. Orson, look. Now, Orson, now, 1 second. Wait a minute. Orson, look, I don't talk like that. I mean, I seen you. What is that I seen you? That's for Phil Harris. It's not for me.
Now, look here, Jack. I can't tolerate any more interruptions. This is a legitimate program. You're playing a character. The character speaks ungrammatically. Miss Gordon, will you please continue?
Gee, what a tyrant.
Jack, let's start where we left off. It's your line, Jack. We're due in New York at 10:03.
All right.
Sound effect.
We're due in New York at 10:03.
Yes, I know.
You got on at Hudson, didn't you?
Yes.
I seen you. Seen you. You know, I've been on ever since Schenectady.
Really?
Yeah, that's where I worked. I mean, where I did work, at the GE.
GE?
Yeah, General Electric. They call it the GE. That's where the plant is in Schenectady.
I've got a girlfriend from Schenectady.
Is that so?
She's in New York now, or at least she was the last time I heard of her. Grace Crowell.
Oh, I used to know a Mildred Crowell, but her name wasn't Grace.
This was Grace.
Yeah, this was Mildred. I guess there's a difference, all right. You know, Mildred's brother was quite a billiard player. 3 cushions. Eddie, his name was.
That's my name, too. Well, of course, it isn't my real name. It's just my nickname. My real name is Edna.
Oh. His is Edward.
I often wonder what became of Grace. It's funny how we lose track of people. It's terrible, too, because if a person's got good friends, they ought to keep them.
I certainly got good ones. They showed that last night at the banquet.
Were you at a banquet?
I was the guest of honor.
How exciting.
You know, it was a farewell testimonial on account of me going to New York. And then this afternoon, 10 or 11 of the boys came down to the station, and Ernie Butler, that's a friend of mine, you know, he had a hangover and bought me the seat in a parlor car. And he said it'd be a disgrace for me to ride in a day coach with this new valise.
It's a lovely valise.
Yeah, they gave it to me at the banquet. It's got my initials, FDC, Frederick D. Stevens.
What's the D for?
Deductible. I was born March 15. 5:10 a.m.
I like a man to have a middle name. Girls don't usually have them. I'm just plain Edna.
I wouldn't say plain.
Oh, you know how to make pretty speeches.
I bet you're used to them. You know, talking about speeches, you ought to heard the speech Carl Williams made when he gave me this valise. At the banquet, I mean. I guess I blushed all right.
I bet they were sorry to see you go. You look like the kind of a man men would like. And girls, too.
I don't go around much with girls.
I don't go much with men, either.
Neither do I. Yep, Carl sure made quite a speech, all right. He said the boys expect me to be the best songwriter in the country.
Is that what you are, a songwriter?
Not the music part, just the words. Lyrics, they're called. The words are called lyrics, I mean. Not the music, you know.
It must be wonderful to have a gift like that.
You know, that's what Benny Davis called it. A gift. I guess you heard of him. He's turned out 100 smash hits.
I guess I must have.
He wrote, Oh, How I Miss You Tonight. It was a song about how he missed his mother. He called her his old pal.
That's sweet.
Well, we happened to be playing in Schenectady and Vaudeville. He did, and I happened to meet him, and I happened to show him some of my lyrics. And he said a man like me with a songwriting gift like me was a sucker not to go to New York. And he gives me a letter of introduction to Paul Sears, the composer. He wrote Paprika. You remember Paprika? Paprika, paprika, the spice of my life. Paprika, paprika, the spice of my life. You remember?
I think so.
Now, believe me, when you write a song like Paprika, Paprika, you don't ever have to worry again. You know, he's one of the most successful composers he is, Paul Sears. I bet you he and me will turn out some hits together.
Are you going to be partners with him?
If he wants me to, and I guess he will when I show him Benny Davis's letter. That's the hard part, getting acquainted. I'd have broke away a long while ago, only from a sister. But she got married a week ago Saturday. She's always done everything for me. I mean, cooked my meals and sewed things for me.
Oh, I love to sew. It's too bad you're not my brother. I mean, Mr. Stevens, I don't want you to misjudge me.
You don't need to be scared of me, girlie. I treat all women like they were my sister. Till I find out different.
I'll bet you're a wonderful songwriter. No wonder your friends gave you that big dinner.
Yes, sir. It sure was some banquet, all right. I bet some of my pals got a headache today, all right. I feel terrible.
I hardly ever touch it myself, only once in a great while at a party.
Girls ought to lay off it entirely.
I never touch it.
You take some of those women in Schenectady, and they want to go out every night and guzzle. Married women, too. Either they get all dressed up and drag their husband to a dance or a card party every night, or either they lay around a house in a wrapper.
When I marry, I'll be just as careful of my appearance as I am now. I believe a husband appreciates a wife dressing up for him.
If it ain't too expensive.
The man I marry won't have any complaints. I make practically all my own clothes, and I hardly ever go out evenings.
No.
Personally, I prefer to stay home and read, or else just sit and dream. But still, I always bathe and change my clothes, even when I'm only going to cook dinner, no matter how hard I've been working.
You know, I think I'll take a room with a bathroom when I get to the hotel. I've only been to New York once before. That was with Carl Williams. He's the fellow that made that speech last night. That was the first time he's been away from home in the evening since he was married. He's got a wife and baby now.
Oh, I'm dying to have a baby.
Huh?
Oh, heavens, I didn't mean to say that.
It's nothing against a woman to like babies. Carl's wife sure likes hers. She's made him a nice home, too. He didn't have to buy hardly anything in the way of furniture. Her grandmother gave her a bedroom suit, and she bought the rest herself.
She must be a good deal like myself.
She bought it with money she saved while she was working at Burger's.
With the things I've got.
Carl fixed it, though. She could
I'm
quit 3
silly
years
and
after they were married.
But I always thought a girl should bring
Boy,
her
you
husband
should see
something
him now.
besides herself.
He thinks the world of her.
I even wouldn't mind
going on working job
after
back
I was
last
married,
year.
till my husband established himself.
Definitely. Girl I marry won't never have to work. I don't believe the Almighty ever meant for a woman to endure a life of drudgery.
Oh, Mr. Stevens, if only all men felt the same way. My, hasn't it got dark?
Naturally. It's 9:26.
It's been a shorter trip than usual for some reason. Gee, there's a moon out. I love the moon.
Yeah. June moon.
What?
I just said June moon.
It isn't June, it's October.
I know, but June and moon go together. They rhyme. I'm always thinking of words that rhyme, even when I ain't working.
That'd be a catchy name, June Moon, for a song, I mean.
Sure, and you could get other words to rhyme with it, like spoon and croon and soon
And Mary Soon or something.
and macaroon. I wish I had some. I'm hungry. You know, I thought when I got to New York I'd go and get something to eat someplace. Only I wouldn't know where to go.
Oh, I can tell you a place where I go once in a while. But most of the time I stay home and cook my own dinner just because I love to cook.
It'd be too late to cook tonight.
Yes, I guess it would.
Say, this place you're talking about, it ain't very expensive, is it?
Oh, no. The last time I went, there was 2 of us, and we had hot roast beef sandwiches and peas and coffee, and it only came to $1.20.
Well, that sounds all right. I guess we can each afford 60 cents.
That's for me. Hello, this is Paul Sears. Who? Fred Stevens. Oh, hello, Mr. Stevens. Welcome to our city. Where are you now? Well, you better hop in a taxi. It's quite a ways yet. That's it, Mr. Stevens. That's Mr. Stevens. That's the lyric writer I was telling you about, Lucille. He's from Schenectady.
Thank heavens he can't get that in a lyric.
I've been thinking maybe he and I could do something together, or I could get rid of Houseman. If Houseman gave me a new idea, I'd drop dead. But this fella's got a fresh slant.
Houseman would drop even deader if you gave him a new tune.
I gave him Paprika, didn't I?
That's so long ago, I don't see how you remember it.
Well, Hart made enough money out of it.
Everybody makes money but you.
This Stevens is a nice kid. Hope Hart likes him. Say, your sister's got a date with Hart. Why don't you keep it? It's half past 8.
Don't you worry about Eileen.
What about Hart and her anyway? If she's engaged to him, aren't they ever going to get married?
You'll know as soon as there's anything
If you ask me, she's tired of him already. Yeah, he'll wiggle off the hook some way. If you ask me, he's getting so tired of it, it's not his...
Listen, what makes you think so?
Oh, just because of the luck I'm running. If I ever marry again, it'll be a woman without a sister.
If the sister didn't have a sister, that's who I'd like to be. Either of them.
What time is it, Lucille?
Oh, it's nearly 9 o'clock. Do you want me to fix your evening dress, Eileen? Say, it's not going to last much longer.
I know it.
Why don't you shop around Monday and see if you can find something? I'd go with you if I had anything to shop with.
You wait till this new number gets over.
By that time, I'll only want a shawl.
Oh, is Hart going to phone her, isn't he? It gets me crazy, this waiting. Oh, shut up, Paul.
Oh, all right.
And don't slam.
I wouldn't mind waiting if there was something to wait for. I nearly go out of my mind just sitting. You hear women brag about the nice, cozy evenings they spend at home with their husband. They're not married to a piano tuner with 10 thumbs.
Hart said he'd call me the minute he got in. Maybe the train was late. He was in Philadelphia, you know.
I know, but they got phones there now, too. Wish there was something I could do tonight.
Why don't you go to a picture?
They charge admission.
You're a fool to keep it up. You ought to break away while you still got a chance.
That's easy to say. I haven't got any grounds.
You wouldn't need grounds. Just get him up in court and let the judge look at him.
And if I did leave him, do you know what'd happen? He'd write 10 smash hits in a week. That's my luck.
Who's that?
Oh, Maxie, I guess. Or maybe that lyric writer.
Who?
You know, that's coming to see Paul from Albany or someplace.
Oh.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, hello, Maxie.
Hello, Lucille. Hello, Maxie.
Hi, kids. Well, everybody's staying at home on a Saturday night.
All nights are alike up here.
Look, I want the girls to hear that Montana number, Maxie. You know, the way it really sounds when it's played.
Okay.
Hey, he's going to play Montana number.
That's all right. I'll close the door.
Go ahead, Maxie. She don't know anything.
You know, I might have been a songwriter myself, but I got stuck on my own stuff. I wrote tunes nobody ever heard of before. Yeah, they wouldn't stand for it. You know, that was a great idea of Houseman's writing a lyric about Montana. He's using up his ideas too fast. Montana Moon. He puts a state and the moon all in one song.
Are you going to play it?
Yeah.
Montana moonlight, as bright as noonlight. Oh, may it soon light my way to you. I know you're lonely, my one and only, for I am lonely, that's lonely too. Solid, Maxie. Boy, ain't it great the way Maxie plays it?
I don't think Berlin will kill himself.
You know, Paul, I wouldn't count on this number too much if I was you. They were talking about it when I left the office. Hart and Goebel.
Who was talking?
Hello, Eileen. I said Hart and Goebel were talking about Paul's new number.
You mean they were talking about it today?
Yeah.
What time?
I don't know, 5 o'clock.
Goebel and Hart both?
Yeah, why?
Oh.
What's the matter with Eileen?
Oh, that don't matter. What did they say about the song?
Right now, they don't want it.
If I don't deliver pretty soon, Maxie, they'll let me out. I guess this is Stevens.
Who?
Stevens, that lyric writer.
Hey, maybe he's just what you need.
Hello, Stevens. Glad to see you.
Hello, Mr. Sears.
Put your hat and coat in the chair. This is Maxie. Mr. Schwartz, shake hands with Mr. Stevens.
Glad to meet you, Mr. Schwartz.
Hello, Stevens.
And this is my wife. Dear, this is Mr. Stevens.
How are you, Mr. Stevens?
I'm all right.
Paul tells me you're a songwriter yourself.
Just the words.
Well, that's all Paul needs, that and the music.
Well, I just write the words. You know, I've always admired Mr. Sears ever since he wrote Paprika.
You've got a good memory.
Well, sir, I'm anxious to get started all right. Since I got to town, all I've done so far is spend money.
Spend money? Say, you are a stranger.
Sit down.
Thanks. Guess I'm a little late. I got off the subway station. There was an old woman there selling papers. So I stopped and talked to her because, well, I knew she must be somebody's mother.
A fresh slant.
I was right, too, because she told me she has 6 sons. I feel sorry for old women that has to earn their own living.
What do the boys do, rent her the stand?
No, most of them are in a hospital, and 2 of them had their foot cut off. She told me all about it, so I gave her a nickel.
You want to be careful in a place like New York.
Oh, boy, it's a great city, all right. You know, today I took a ferry boat over to Statten's Island and back. It's an island. You have to take a ferry boat. But I suppose you've been there.
I go there a lot, just for the trip.
Oh. I seen the Goddess of Liberty, too. I mean, the statue. It costs $1 million, weighs 225 tons.
She ought to cut out sweets.
Hey, Mrs. Sears, have you been through the Holland Tunnel?
No, I haven't.
Have you been through the Holland Tunnel, Mr. Sears?
No.
Have you been through the Holland Tunnel, Mr. Schwartz?
I've been waiting for somebody to go with.
I'll go with you.
Fine.
See, I want to go every place, so to get ideas for songs. I was telling Mr. Sears about one idea. I haven't got it written yet. It's a song about the traffic lights. Green for come ahead and red for stop. Maybe a comical song with a girl giving signals to her sweetheart with different colored lights in the window. A green light when it's all right for him to call.
And a red one when her husband's home.
No, this girl isn't married. I was thinking of another idea on the way up here. Maybe a song about how New York is all just one big symphony. You know, the noise of the subways and the taxis and the streetcars and the trucks and the newsboys. Nothing but noise. That's what New York is, the lyric would say.
That's all we need. A song with noise in the words, too.
See, and then there's the Hall of Fame up to Washington Heights. Gee, they got everybody up there. Washington, Lincoln, Longfellow. They got 2 dozen of them. What do you call them, busts?
That's the place for you, Paul, dear.
No. Man's got to be dead for 25 years.
Well, that fits in.
Well, I gotta be going along.
Wait, I want Stevens to show you one of those lyrics.
I gotta be downtown at 10.
Oh, come on, this won't take a minute. Come on, go ahead, Stevens.
Oh, I got lots of ideas, lots of them. But I told this one to a certain party, and this party seemed to think it was pretty good.
Let's hear it.
It's just a title.
What's the title?
June Moon. That's the title. June Moon. See, the verse will be about a fella that meets a girl in June, when there's a moon shining. And then something happened so that she went away. Or maybe he went away. Or maybe they both go away. I don't know. And then whenever he looks up at the moon after that, he thinks of her. And then in the second verse, she'll be doing the same thing for him.
That's fair enough.
I don't know. Another moon song.
June. I got it.
June moon. How I wish you so-and-so. How I miss my so-and-so. Spoon. For heaven's sake, this would have taken Cole Porter months. I'm a genius.
Hello? No, this is Lucille. Just a minute. Eileen.
No, the idea came to me on the train. See, I just happened to be looking out of the window.
Hello.
And...
Oh, yes, Mr. Hart. Not at all, Mr. Hart. What train, Mr. Hart? Oh, nothing, Mr. Hart.
Goodbye, everybody.
Yes,
I'm
I can
doing the
imagine.
ocean.
It must have been terribly tiresome.
Wait a minute, Maxie. See you again.
Don't
What?
say anything now,
Oh, really? I
about
thought you were leaving tomorrow. What time tonight? My, it must be important. Well, I won't have a chance to say goodbye before you go. Oh, don't trouble yourself. It's quite all right. Have a pleasant trip, Mr. Hart.
Mr. Stevens, this is my sister, Miss Fletcher.
Hello.
Glad to meet you, Miss Fletcher.
Thanks.
Mr. Stevens, the lyric writer. He's from Schenectady. He's been all over New York getting ideas for songs.
Do you like it?
Yeah, I like it fine, but it costs money to live here. Gosh, I had breakfast in a hotel this morning, and it was 40 cents for salt mackerel, mashed potatoes, and a cup of instant postum. Imagine.
A few more breakfasts like that, and you won't have any money left.
I still got plenty.
Oh, really? Say, I bet you haven't been to any of the real places, have you? It takes a New Yorker to find those.
Well, I seen the Goddess of Liberty.
I mean the night places.
I seen it at night.
Oh, no. Restaurants.
Huh?
Mr. Stevens would love those, wouldn't he, Eileen?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Why don't we make up a party, the four of us, and show Mr. Stevens the town?
You mean tonight?
What do you say, Eileen? How about it?
Why, sure. I don't know why not. Sure.
Well, wait. It'll be great to go, all right. Only the trouble is I got another engagement.
Ah, you could put that off.
Of course you could.
Paul had another engagement, too. He broke it on your account. Didn't you, dear?
What?
We thought it'd be fun for the four of us to go out someplace, but Mr. Stevens doesn't want to.
Well, it ain't that I don't want to.
You know, you really ought to. Paul was just saying that what you needed was to go places where they do the latest numbers and hear what kind of songs they're getting over. Isn't that what you were saying, Paul?
Sure.
Sure. Are we all set?
Well, gee, I'd like to go, all right, but I don't know on account of this other engagement.
Oh, but you could do something about that. You could go if you really wanted to. Don't you want to?
Well, maybe. Maybe I can get out of the party I was going with. But this engagement, I was going to take in a radio show.
Say, listen, I'll tip you off about that, Mr. Stevens. One thing about a radio show, you don't have to go to see it. You can always hear it on the air or turn it off.
Well, you know, in Schenectady, I listen to the radio all the time. And there's one guy I never miss. Gee, he's a scream. A fellow by the name of Jack Benny. You know, Benny. Jack Benny.
Oh, yeah.
Jack Benny. Sure, I hear about him all the time on the Fred Allen program.
Fred Allen? Oh, I listen to him, too. Gee, that Fred Allen is sure funny, all right. He hands me a lot of laughs. But gosh, I don't know. He ain't got near the class that guy Benny has. What a comic.
Mr. Stevens, you can go to a radio show anytime. Wouldn't you rather hit the high spots with us tonight?
Well, I ain't dressed to go out. I mean, to some swell place.
We'll go where we don't have to dress.
How about the Orchard? Wouldn't Maxie be surprised to see the four of us stroll in?
Lucille and I'll go right in and get our things on.
Well, wait a minute. It's just that I didn't happen to bring enough money with me.
Oh, that's all right, Paul. Mr. Stevens can be the treasurer tonight, and you can fix it up with him later. Come on, let's hurry.
Say, Paul, she's a good looker, ain't she?
Who, Eileen?
Yeah. Does she live here with you all the time?
I'd say she does.
Say, can I use your phone a minute?
Sure. Do you want the book?
No, I know the number. Look, they was talking about the Orchard. That ain't one of them expensive places, is it?
Nah, just about average.
Average is too expensive. Hello? Does Miss Edna Baker live there? Yeah. No kidding, Paul. What do you think it'd cost for the four of us? More than $6?
You got more than that with you, haven't you?
Well, no, don't call her to the phone. Just give her this message. Tell her Mr. Frederick D. Stevens, the songwriter, called and won't be able to make it tonight. He's all tied up. More than $6 for four people. Where are they going to take me? $6. I wish I was dead.
You are listening to the Campbell Playhouse presentation of June Moon, produced by Orson Welles and starring Jack Benny. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System. This is Ernest Chappell, ladies and gentlemen, welcoming you back to the Campbell Playhouse. In a moment, we shall resume our presentation of June Moon. You know, I think everybody will agree that this is the day of the expert, of the specialist in every field. Now, Campbell's have spent 41 years in the highly specialized field of soup making. Throughout all these years, every day has been soup making day at Campbell's. Every day a day devoted to marketing for the finest ingredients, to improving recipes and to acquiring skill in soup cookery. And I think after all these years, it may be truly said that Campbell's know how to make soup. Certainly, this is conceded by good home cooks everywhere. The moment they first taste Campbell's soups and discover their fine flavor and wholesomeness, they often say something like this: yes, these soups are really homelike. And so it is that more and more women are turning over the making of all their soups to Campbell's. Have you done so yet? If not, I invite you to try your family's favorite soups, one after another, as they're made in Campbell's kitchens. And if you will, I sincerely believe that you, too, will appoint Campbell's soup makers to your family from now on. And now Orson Welles resumes our Campbell Playhouse presentation of June Moon, starring Jack Benny.
Ladies and gentlemen, the city. In the big city, there are those who go their ways making money without turning to the right or...
Hey, Orson. Orson.
What is it, Jack?
How am I doing, Orson? I mean, in this part I'm playing, is my characterization vivid and sincere enough?
Jack, what's the difference?
What's the difference? He's lucky I'm not temperamental. I'd stomp right out of this studio. Hello, Maxie. Ain't Mr. Hart come in yet?
Not yet, Jack.
Oh.
Jack, I have to set the scene.
Oh, pardon me.
The scene, ladies and gentlemen. In the big city, there are those who go their ways without turning to the right or left.
That guy burns me up.
But there is a tribe wonderfully composed, like the Martians, solely of eyes and the means of locomotion.
Thinks he has such a beautiful speaking voice.
Of such as these are the slaves of a great music publisher. Lifeless but undead, they woo the muse in the offices of Goebbels and Hart just off Broadway. Here in a dozen little cubicles at a dozen hopeful but patient pianos are manufactured those hymns of love, those ragtime rigadoons.
Rigadoons?
That great melody to which a nation dances year after year. Usually the same melody.
Hello, Maxie. Ain't Mr. Hart come in yet?
Not yet.
Gosh, we used to meet him at 4. Here it is at 4:22.
Well, this is his first day back in town. I guess he's got a lot to do.
Paul's coming right away. We want to play the song once before Mr. Hart hears it. Gosh, I wish I'd have known Mr. Hart was going to be late. I could have slept some more. I had to get up at 12.
It must be tough after working for the General Electric, where a man's hours is practically his own.
No, I had to be on the job at 8 there every morning. Say, Maxie, how much money do you think a fellow ought to be making before he could get married? In New York, I mean.
It depends on the girl.
You know, Maxie, I'm getting a new suit. Miss Fletcher took me.
Is that so?
It's blue serge with hair-bone stripes. He took my measures all over, like I was a fighter. I'm 38 inches around my chest and 33 around my stomach, and I forget my thigh. Anyway, he's got it all wrote down.
I must get a copy.
You know, Maxie, if they like June Moon, I'm going to get an evening dinner coat with a tuxedo. I've been wearing an old suit of Paul's, but it's too big. Miss Fletcher says it would hold two like me.
There couldn't be two.
She was just joking.
Oh, I see.
Gee, I wonder what my friends in Schenectady would say if they could see me now.
I hate to think.
I didn't know nothing when I lived there. Even the first few weeks I was in New York, I was kind of a sap. Awful knave. I went sightseeing to places like the Aquarium, Grant's Tomb, and the Central Park Animal Zoo. Can you imagine? Gee, a little friend of mine, she took me around, and I thought I was seeing New York. She didn't know no better either.
What's become of her? Did she go home?
No, she lives here. She works for a dentist. I must call her up sometime and see how she's getting along. Only I guess maybe I'll wait now till I need a filling or something. She could probably get me a price.
Hello, Fred. Hart here yet?
Oh, hello, Paul. No, he ain't showed up yet. We just got time to run through the song before he gets here.
Are you ready, Maxie?
Oh, sure.
Drop it a tone, will you, Maxie?
Okay.
It's too high for me. I can't.
How's that?
That's better. Put a lot of schmaltz in this, will you? June moon shining above, will my true love come soon? Maxie, just put feeling into it. June moon, I am so blue. I know that you long for her to... Up, 40, Maxie, 40. Pianissimo again. Sweet night bird,
winging aloft, singing a song, love tune. Now, Fort, Maxie, Fort. Tell her to come to me here, to me and her dear June. Moo hoo hoo hoo.
Solid, Fred, solid.
Oh, that was wonderful.
Huh?
You got an audience.
Edna.
Hello.
Well, I wasn't expecting to see you. This is Miss Baker, everybody. This little girl I was telling you about. The one that works for the dentist.
How do you do, Miss Baker?
Hello. I hated to come down to your office, Fred. I'm afraid you're busy.
We was just polishing up my new number, June Moon. Did you like the melody?
Oh, I loved it. And I love Fred's words. I think everybody will. Oh, but I don't want to interrupt. Maybe I'd better
No. We'll go. You stay right here.
But look, if Mr. Hart comes
Paul
in...
and I will be in my room. Goodbye, Miss Baker.
Goodbye, everybody. Hello, Fred.
Hello.
There's nobody here, Fred.
Huh?
Nobody's looking.
Well, of course nobody's looking. If nobody's here, that means nobody's looking. Naturally. My goodness.
Fred, what's been the matter?
Nothing's the matter, Edna. I've just been busy, that's all. I was going to call you as soon as I wasn't busy.
I thought maybe you were sick or something.
Yeah.
I tried to call you up 2 mornings, at your hotel, and they said you couldn't be waked up before 1 o'clock, I think it was.
That's only because I've been up late the night before working. We got the song all finished, ain't we?
Oh, it's beautiful. I had no idea it would turn out so beautiful. It's beautiful.
You said it. And when it's published, I'll make them put your name on the cover. Dictated to Miss Edna Baker. How's that?
Oh, Fred, I'd love that. But I'd love something else better.
What's that?
Fred, it's been 2 Sundays since we went anywhere together. Remember the day we took our lunch and went over to the Palisades all day? And then we were going again the next Sunday, only we didn't. I remembered that Sunday.
It's silly to remember a Sunday you didn't go someplace. Well, every Sunday you don't go someplace. I mean, someplace you don't go to. I don't know what I mean.
But what have you been doing, Fred?
Well, you have to go around places and keep in contract with the other boys.
You mean nightclubs?
Some of them.
Just you and Mr. Sears?
Well, Paul's wife, Mrs. Sears.
Doesn't anybody else go along to sort of even up the party?
Well, nobody you know. I hardly know her myself. She just comes along because she's Lucille's sister and lives there.
Oh.
Can't leave her alone by herself. She's timid.
Didn't you ever tell her about me?
Well, you see, it's only business. There hasn't nothing like that come up. She isn't nosy.
A girl like she's probably got lots of beautiful clothes. She probably makes little me look like nothing.
No, that part don't matter. Wouldn't make no difference to me if she had all the clothes in the world. Or if she was bare, either.
Doesn't it cost an awful lot of money when you go around to all these places?
Costs a lot of money.
Fred, are you going to be busy tonight? Fred, after they hear the song?
Sure, I got to work with Paul.
Well, then before that, after Mr. Hart hears it. Oh, Fred, couldn't I stay in here at 2, Fred?
Oh, no, Eddie. When Mr. Hart hearing a new number, he can't have nobody around. He's got to concentrate on what he's doing.
Oh.
I'll tell you what. You wait in the reception room or somewheres, and the minute he hears the song, I'll come and tell you what he says.
Oh, Fred, that's grand. And then can we go somewhere for a little while, have a soda or something?
I guess so. There's a place around the corner you can get nickel sodas. You can hardly tell them from the dime ones.
Oh, Fred, I'm so
Of course, you only
glad.
get one straw.
You do
It's
care
just a
a
matter
little
of
then.
price.
I mean, you do
That's
care
all.
whether you see me?
Of course I do. Sure, certainly.
Oh, pardon me.
Oh, Mr. Hart. Mr. Hart.
What?
We've been waiting for you. We're all ready.
Ready with what?
That new number. We'll go through it if you'll wait a minute.
What number?
June Moon, the number I wrote with Paul Sears. I'll get Maxie. We'll run through it for you. Say, Edna, if you'll go into one of them other
Oh,
offices.
all right, dear. I can wait happy now.
Yeah, wait in that reception over there. There's a good place.
Oh, thank you, Fred.
No, not that door. Gee, can't you read? Now, Mr. Hart. Where'd he go? Mr. Hart. Mr. Hart.
Why, Freddie.
Hello, Fred.
Oh, hello, girls. What are you doing down here, Eileen?
Lucille and I came down to bring you luck.
Yeah, I'm a born rabbit's foot.
Oh.
Oh, there you are, Mr. Hart.
Yeah, well, I didn't know we had visitors. Hello, Lucille.
Hello?
This is Miss Fletcher, Mr. Hart. Miss Fletcher's Paul's sister-in-law.
Yeah. I've already met Miss Fletcher.
Yeah,
Mr. Hart's been off on a trip, Eileen.
that's very interesting.
Are you ready for our song now, Mr. Hart? I mean, June Moon?
I guess so. Come on, Stephen.
Oh, wait till you get a load of this song. I mean the words.
Eileen, what are you going to do about Stevens? He's going to be kind of a nuisance with Hart back.
I can handle him. He's so far gone you can tell him anything.
I wonder if that song is any good. All of Paul's stuff sounds just alike to me.
Well, maybe Stephen's lyrics are just silly enough to get over. I got kind of a hunch they are.
Even if they buy it, it won't mean anything to us. Paul's so far ahead of his royalties, they'll never catch up. He could write Madam Butterfly, and it wouldn't even get me a new step in.
Why don't you do something, Lucille?
Maybe I am.
You are what?
Oh, I don't know. Nothing, maybe. Only, remember Ed Knowlton?
Yeah, what about him?
I ran into him Friday on Madison Avenue.
Well?
Still likes me, and I like him.
Has he got any money?
He makes a lot, but he spends it.
If he likes you, that's not a fatal drawback.
He likes me, all right.
Well, don't tell me you aren't going to do anything about it.
Oh, I don't know what to do. Ed's nice. The things he says, they make me feel young again. And it's such a relief to just talk to a man that hates music.
Listen, if you don't do this...
Hey, girls, what do you know? They're crazy about it. They're going to take it. They've took it.
Come in.
Mr. Schwartz, do you know if Mr. Hart heard Mr. Stevens' song yet? I mean, June Moon.
Yes, Miss Baker, he did.
Was it all right? Did he like it?
He took it.
Where is he? Still in there?
Not anymore. They've all gone.
They?
Yes, Mr. Sears and his wife and his sister and Fred. They went out just a couple of minutes ago.
Oh. Oh, thank you very much.
And now for the tune that's still in first place on our hit parade for the 16th consecutive week, June Moon.
Oh, June Moon. If I hear that ridiculous song again, I'll scream.
What's ridiculous about 16 weeks on a hit parade?
Well, it doesn't mean anything to us, does it? We still haven't any money.
That dress is new, ain't it?
Don't you think it's about time?
How much was it?
It won't come due for a while. I may take care of it myself.
I can take care of it if it ain't too soon.
I gotta go on out. Eileen's waiting.
Hold on. That's what I want to talk to you about.
What?
About her and Fred.
Oh.
She's got him so he can hardly work at all. I don't know when we're going to finish the new numbers.
Of course you can finish them.
But marrying him and taking him off on this trip, it's going to cost him $1 million. And just when we're beginning to work together good.
You can write other numbers while he's gone.
Don't you think they ought to go ahead and get married? No, they shouldn't. He's a nice guy. Oh, I've got to kind of like him myself.
Well, what of it? Eileen's a nice girl.
Oh, you know what I mean. Isn't it kind of a dirty trick? I mean, after the way Eileen... Well, the way she and Hart and everything...
Oh, you ought to have more sense.
Oh, just the same, I don't feel right about it. And the way she's throwing his money around just like it was confetti. Spending every nickel she can get on herself. Clothes.
You can't go to Europe in a life belt.
Don't you know what she spent yesterday afternoon just in one day? Close to $400. Fred pretty near cried when he told me. And I don't blame him. He's a nice kid.
She doesn't spend that every day.
Well, she shouldn't have spent it at all. And you should have thought that she didn't spend it.
Well, how could I stop her? I wasn't there.
Oh, yes, you were. You were with her all afternoon. You said you were.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I thought you meant the day before.
It was Sunday the day before.
Yeah, I just got mixed up, that's all.
Anyhow, something ought to be done about it. She's got him in debt enough.
Life is a game. We are but players, playing the best we know how. Yeah, that's good. Playing the best we know how. Come in. Sometimes we shoot a 7. Sometimes 11. But oft times it's boxcars for us.
Well, Fred.
Oft times, what do you want? Can't you see I'm composing?
Did you ask Hart about that advance?
He's advanced me so many advances already in advance. Gee.
But, sweetheart, you promised.
All right. But I gotta find Paul now. He's waiting for me.
Oh, don't go to work yet. You never have any time for me. You don't realize I want to be loved once in a while.
Loved once in a while? I held your hand in the taxi, didn't I? What do you want?
Just think, only 3 more days till we belong to each other.
It's 4, ain't it?
4 till we sail. Only 3 till we get married. And don't forget, you're to ask Hart for $1,000 advance.
I've borrowed $3,500 on June Moon already. Maybe more than my royalties will amount to altogether.
Don't be ridiculous. That number will still be selling when you're dead.
I won't care so much then.
Oh, Fred, your children will. Don't you want children, Freddie?
I don't get along with them very good.
You would with your own.
No, I figure I'd get along better with other people. Because they go home once in a while.
We needn't think of that now. Let's just think of you and me, all alone on that big boat.
We won't be alone. The fellow said it'd be pretty near full.
But we don't have to see anybody. A bride and groom don't generally go around much. They're supposed to be so awfully in love.
I hope the dining room won't be crowded.
They'll serve us in our cabin.
It'd be kind of cramped. Maybe I could go in the dining room and order your meal sent up.
And leave me all alone? I'd be scared to death.
Look, it's just as dangerous in the dining room as the bedroom.
If the ship sinks pretty near all the rooms will be underwater.
Let's not think about such things. Just think of the pleasant side. London, Paris. Oh, I'm glad we're going to Paris first, so I can get some clothes.
Clothes? What have you been buying?
Well, they're all right for the ship, dear, but not the Riviera. Don't you want to be proud of me? Don't you want to be proud of the way I look?
Well, if you're going to stay in your cabin all the time, you won't eat nothing but a Mother Hubbard.
Well, all ready for the big trip?
Hello, Maxie.
The boat sails Saturday.
I don't know what you want to go to Europe for.
Why not?
Well, because he's never been there before. A songwriter never goes anywhere for the first time. They're always going back to places. Back to Indiana, back to Baltimore.
Fred, are you going to talk to Mr. Hart?
Yeah, I'm going to talk to Mr. Hart.
Well, this would be a good time. And let me know what he says. I'll be outside.
I'd like to be going back to Schenectady. But Eileen's got her heart set on Europe.
I hear it's quite a place.
Yeah, I guess so. I was kind of excited about it at first, but now, I don't know. Kind of tired, I guess, the way we've been going it lately. I'm kind of behind on my sleep.
But you've been having a lot of fun, all those nightclubs.
I did at first, dancing and everything. Now my feet's so sore, I have to take a bath every day. Might as well take a whole bath as just your feet. They ache so I can't sleep in them. If I don't get some rest soon, I'll have a nervous breakup. And everything costs so much. Eileen wants to take a taxi if she's going in the other room.
You sure picked out a thrifty little girl.
I kind of get thinking sometimes, maybe a man like I that's just breaking in, maybe he shouldn't get married so soon. Especially a woman who's got to have so many clothes. Sometimes I think it'd be better if I hadn't got engaged.
I read a case once in Michigan where a man was engaged to a girl and didn't marry her.
I didn't read that. Have you got the clippings?
No, but my memory's pretty good. For instance, I remember a nice little girl that was here to see you one time. I even remember her name, Miss Baker.
Maxie, you haven't seen her or anything, have you?
Me? No. Why?
I guess I shouldn't be thinking of her at a time like this.
Are you?
I don't know, sometimes. Oh, I'm going to my office. I got to do some work. Ever since I broke my dime bank, everything's been so complicated. Life is a game. We are but players. Playing the best we know. Sometimes a full house greets us. Sometimes a broken flush meets us. And oft times...
Fred.
Why don't you... Oh, hello, Eddie.
Hello.
Hey, maybe I'm crazy, but you know I'm glad to see Eddie.
I'm glad to see you too, Fred. I'm glad you're well and that you're going to be happy.
You know, Eddie, I've been having the insomnias about you. I've been waking up in the morning thinking about you.
Are you waking up in the morning again, Fred?
Gee, we used to have a lot of fun together. Remember that day in Van Cortlandt Park when I lost my watch and that little boy found it?
You gave him a nickel.
I gave him a dime. And he said, keep it and buy your wife a radio set. He thought we was married.
I remember.
He was embarrassed, all right.
Any girl would.
And then coming back, we forgot to change to 72nd Street. That is, you forgot. I didn't know any better.
I just wasn't thinking.
You had to go all the way down to Times Square. Remember, that's when we saw the flea circus.
You said one of the police reminded you of a man in Schenectady.
Yeah, Perry Robinson. He always walked like he just picked up a nail. Eddie, have you heard anything about me?
I heard you were going to be married, Fred. I should have congratulated you.
Thanks. Say, Eddie, wait here a minute, will you?
Where are you going, Fred?
You congratulating me made me think of something.
What, Fred?
I got to go see my intended-to-be fiancé. Eileen?
Yes, Freddie?
I got to tell you something.
What is it, Freddie?
I don't want to get married. I mean you and I, and don't call me Freddie. That's all.
Do you know what you're saying?
I shouldn't have never got engaged. I didn't realize.
Well, this is a fine time to tell me. Why didn't you wait till we got to the altar?
Why wait? I know it now.
I see. And you think all you have to do is tell me, and that settles it. Well, it doesn't work quite that way. I'll sue that girl for alienation.
You can't. She was born right here in New York State. So there.
Well, what would you think of a man that made a girl love him when she was already engaged and then threw her over? Do you think that would be honorable?
A man like that is a rat.
I was talking to you.
You didn't tell me.
Well, I'm telling you now, Fred Stevens. I'm the girl you're engaged to, and I'm the girl you're going to marry.
Now, look, Eileen.
Hello, Fred. Am I interrupting?
No, I was just going. See you later, Freddie.
What's the matter? Been fighting?
Ain't anything the matter.
Well, I just thought maybe we might get together on some of those songs this afternoon.
I can't. I got to go to the French passport place.
I thought you went there yesterday.
It would have been cheaper. Told you I went with Eileen while she was shopping.
You must have had a swell time running around with two women all yesterday afternoon.
What two women?
Her and Lucille.
Lucille wasn't along, just I and Eileen.
Yesterday?
Yeah, we were together from 1 till 5:30. Why?
Didn't Lucille ever meet you during the afternoon?
No, why?
Paul, Eileen and I are going out to lunch. Want to come along?
Lucille, I want to talk to you.
What about?
Where were you yesterday afternoon?
I was out.
I said, where were you?
Do I have to report all my movements?
You do, and I catch a line. Where were you?
I had an engagement. It was with an old friend of mine, and I thought you mightn't want me to do it, and so I told you I was with Eileen.
Holy mackerel.
I know it was silly of me, Paul. I was going to tell you later, wasn't I, Eileen?
Yes, she was going to tell you tonight. She told me so.
Where did you go yesterday afternoon with this fella?
Fella? Gee.
We went to a matinee.
On a Monday?
We went to the Roxy.
Who was there? On the stage show?
I don't see what difference that makes.
You dirty lying double-crosser!
Hey, my goodness.
That's not true.
You keep still, Eileen. Listen, Paul, did you think I was going to wait around forever for you to give me the things I wanted?
Holy smokes, Lucille. You mean to say that when you were married to Paul, you went out with a fella? Eileen, you must have known she was doing it.
Known she was doing it? She put her up to it.
That's not true.
No? Well, listen to this. I'll tell you something that is true.
Don't you believe him, Fred?
I will if I want to.
Eileen told you she was engaged to be married. Well, she wasn't. She was Hart's girl, and he kicked her out, and that's the only reason she took up with you.
Why, that's the Badger game. Eileen, you're nothing but a badger. That's what you are.
Come on, Lucia, let's get out of here. I'm sick of looking at these Tin Pan Alley hacks.
I'm coming, Eileen. Goodbye.
And you're a Badger sister. Hey, Eddie. Excuse me, Maxie.
What is it, Fred?
I don't have to marry her. Paul told me everything.
Congratulations.
Look, Eddie, I still got the tickets for the boat, and it says Frederick D. Stevens and wife. I wonder if the steamship people allow you to change your wife.
Yes, if you don't do it in midstream.
If your wife is the right kind, she won't let you take her on an expensive trip. She'll make you put everything into a home. Oh, I don't mean a big home. Just a little bungalow would do.
A bungalow? Bungalow. A bungalow for two. Gee, that would be a great title for a song.
And I've got a great tune.
Bungalow, I love you. Bungalow for two. Gee, the words are great, aren't they? But the tune's no good. It'll never go. Why can't I get somebody to write tunes for me? A bungalow, I love you.
You have been listening to the Campbell Playhouse presentation of June Moon, produced by Orson Welles and starring Jack Benny. Mr. Welles and our guest star will be back with us in just a moment. Meanwhile, I'd like to leave just this thought with the mothers listening. When your children come home at noon for lunch, why not give them bowls of Campbell's chicken soup now and then? Children love chicken, and they'll enjoy the flavor of chicken in every gleaming drop of this good chicken soup, along with fluffy rice and tender chicken meat. Now, perhaps your children take their lunch to school. In that case, why not fill a thermos bottle with good hot chicken soup and let them take it along as their needed hot dish? Try it, and see if they don't ask for it often. Because just as sure as they like chicken, they'll like Campbell's chicken soup. And now, our producer and star of the Campbell Playhouse, Mr. Orson Welles.
June Moon, ladies and gentlemen, June Moon, the play which you've just heard, written by Ring Lardner and George S. Kaufman, was one of the greatest comedy successes that Broadway has ever known. And I want to say, ladies and gentlemen...
Orson.
I want to say, ladies and gentlemen, that Jack Benny, despite what any of you may think, genuinely did his best tonight, and we're very grateful to him for his efforts.
Well, thanks, Orson. Thanks.
Quite all right. The part of Fred Stevens, the songwriter, is generally not regarded as a difficult one. But tonight we happen to have with us a man who makes mountains out of molehills.
Well, thanks.
Quite
Thanks,
all right.
Orson, thanks. I think that called for a thanks.
Yes,
I didn't know.
That's right. It's
You
gracious.
know, I don't often do legitimate plays like this.
No,
and-
you don't.
No. Oh, you could sort of feel that.
Yeah, it came to me.
Okay. While I was playing it?
While you were reading your own
Oh,
line, yes.
well, I didn't know. Now where am I? Oh, yeah, here I am. I don't often do legitimate plays like this. I'd love to get just one line out.
All right. Sorry, Jack.
You drive a guy nuts. I'm not kidding. Wait a minute. You want to know something?
Yeah.
You look better with a beard. No, Orson, look, I don't often do legitimate plays like this, and naturally it was quite a strain for me. But do you really think I gave a good performance?
Well, Jack, if you're referring to those people that left in the middle of the broadcast, they probably had to go home early anyway.
Oh, I wasn't worrying about them. It was the people that stayed. They looked like they wanted to go home, but their feet hurt. Orson, I enjoyed playing that part, but it still didn't have the dramatic quality that will get me an Academy Award. You see, Orson, that's what I'm after, the Academy Award. I want that statue.
Well, don't get excited, Jack. There's no rush. Take your time.
Take my time? Orson, I'm not a kid anymore. I've either got to win it in the next few years or go through the hereafter muttering to myself.
I don't know what you're driving at, Jack.
Well, look, Orson, last week I did The Hunchback of Notre Dame. This week I did June Moon. Now, what I want to know is, when can I play Hamlet? Maybe you didn't hear me, Orson. When can I play Hamlet?
I heard you, and I'm thinking.
Oh. Well, maybe I am a little too anxious, and I don't want you to think that I don't appreciate all these dramatic lessons you've been giving me, but, gee, Shakespeare, that's my goal. That's my ambition. Listen, Orson. I am the Count of Monte Cristo, and the world is mine.
That's not Shakespeare. That's from the Count of Monte Cristo, Jack.
It is?
Yeah.
Well, then let's do that. What are we waiting for?
All right, Jack. If that's what you want, I'll start giving you lessons on it tomorrow.
Oh, boy. Jack Benny and the Count of Monte Cristo. So long, Orson. I want to run over to the Owl drugstore and tell the boys about this. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, Jack. Ladies and gentlemen, the character of Frederick Stevens was sustained tonight by Jack Benny. Other characters were also sustained by Benny Rubin and Gus Schilling, for instance, who were Maxie and Paul in the order named. Lee Benaderet was Lucille, Lee Patrick was Eileen, Virginia Gordon was Edna, and the Candy Butcher, a little jewel of its kind. Candy Butcher. You may remember the Candy Butcher way back there in the first scene. Need I say, fans, that the Candy Butcher was your obedient servant. I had conceived of the Candy Butcher as the part most suitable for our guest of the evening. I had another part in mind for myself. Jack Benny didn't think he was right for the Candy Butcher. I don't know why, just didn't think he was right. As a matter of fact, there has been some talk that Jack Benny was going to play Rochester in Jane Eyre. This is a lie. We're doing Jane Eyre, all right, and I'm playing Rochester. And not the Rochester that first comes to mind. I mean Miss Bronte's Rochester, not Mr. Benny's. Miss Bronte's Rochester neither dances nor sings. And if any of you people would be interested in hearing me play a part again, please tune in. That other faction had better be warned that Rochester is present in several sequences in next week's romance. And romance it is, too. Jane Eyre, quite seriously, is next week's story, and it's one of the really fine, really moving romances in all literature. We're genuinely thrilled at the prospect of doing Jane Eyre for you. We're very proud indeed to announce as our guest for the name part an old friend and very gifted actress, Miss Madeleine Carroll. Till next Sunday night in Jane Eyre with Madeleine Carroll, my sponsors, the makers of Campbell Soups, and all of us in the Campbell Playhouse remain, as always, obediently yours.
The makers of Campbell's Soups join Orson Welles in inviting you to be with us in the Campbell Playhouse again next Sunday evening when we present Jane Eyre with Madeline Carroll as our guest. In the meantime, if you've enjoyed tonight's Playhouse presentation, won't you tell your grocer so tomorrow when you order Campbell's Chicken Soup? This is Ernest Chappell saying thank you and good night.
This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Section 42 of G.K. Chesterton's newspaper columns, The New Witness, 1921. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Larry Wilson. G.K. Chesterton's newspaper columns, The New Witness, 1921, by G.K. Chesterton. At the Sign of the World's End, the Ugliness of Utopia. It is a pity that the people who are trying to attack the worst sort of Bolshevism have got hold of the very worst way of doing it. I have been called a reactionary, and in one sense I am a reactionary. But I am quite sure there is one golden rule for all good little reactionaries to learn. It is no good to give a superficial answer to a fundamental suggestion, even if it is fundamentally false. Indeed, if it is fundamentally false, it is all the more necessary to answer it with what is fundamentally true. There is no answer to anything radical, even radically wrong, except being more radical still. If the other man has dug deep enough to have almost torn the plant up by its roots, we must dig deeper and see that it brings its own soil with it, so that it can live. If the enemy is mining, we must be countermining, and the countermining must be undermining. If the wrong sort of revolutionist is indeed undermining society, he will most certainly blow up society unless we can undermine him. The revolutionist will win unless we can be more revolutionary than he, in the fundamental sense of being at once more skeptical and more visionary. Now, our real hold on the skeptic is almost always in this, that there is something which he does not doubt, and we do. Challenged upon his own first principles, he finds the whole of his movement checked. Thus, for instance, as long as we tell the Bolshevist that his ideal is a beautiful and bewitching illusion, he will lead men to worse fates in the future, if they follow it now. He will not altogether unnaturally say that it seems odd to refuse to follow an ideal because it is beautiful, and that even by our own account there is as yet nothing to show that it is deceptive. But if we tell him at the beginning that we think his ideal is ugly, that it is ugly as an ideal and not merely as a reality, and that as it is ugly in itself, we are naturally not going to be bothered to follow it. If we tell him that, he is brought to a much more serious standstill. In order to convert us, at any rate, he has to show that his ideal is not ugly, but beautiful and worth following. Now, the modern materialist will find it much more difficult to charm like a poet than to plan plausibly like a company promoter. He will be less insinuating when he woos like a lover than when he takes chances like a tipster. It is not really so difficult for him to convince people that his idea is attainable, that he has figured it all out, like a man with a financial tip or a system for Monte Carlo. But we, by hypothesis, are not telling him that his idea is unattainable. We are telling him we do not want to attain it, whether it is attainable or not. What he has to create in us is a motive, that is, a thing that makes other things move. And it is not an easy business to create a motive. Not half so easy as to assume a motive and explain a plan. What he has to do, if he can, is what the great prophets and religious founders did. He has to make a sort of music in the air, to which things stir and march, even when they have seemed stiff as hedges or rooted as trees. And the modern economic materialist is no Orpheus. In short, it is easier to refute Bolshevism as an ideal than Bolshevism as a business proposition. And this for a very vital and interesting reason, that business can be mystifying, whereas idealism must be plain. Anyone can see this by imagining any working example. Suppose a man knocks at the door with a proposition for providing everybody with a pair of stilts, so that they can henceforth all walk about undefiled by mud and breathing a purer air on a level with the tops of trees. It would take a long time to prove to him that he cannot provide everybody with stilts. You might spend many happy hours with him in your library, looking up encyclopedias, uncovering papers with calculations, before you had proved to him from the census, or the reports of the timber trade, or the blue books on afforestation, that the thing was impossible. Perhaps it isn't impossible, an idea to be kept in mind about the other ideal also. If you want to get rid of the gentleman selling stilts at the door, it is much quicker to tell him that you don't want any stilts, that you don't like stilts, and that he has aroused no stilt motive like music in your mind, or in short that walking on stilts forms no part of your ideal. In short, the idealistic answer is short, sharp, and practical, whereas the practical answer is long-winded, elaborate, and tiresome. If a man proposes to take you to Johannesburg on one of those new amphibio-automatic oil bicycles, which are, for all I know, among the brightest and briskest business propositions advertised in that brilliant seat of culture, it will take a long time to disprove to the tout that the bicycle can travel over land and sea. It will need very complicated scientific calculation to demonstrate that the design is a swindle, though since it emanates from the high places of imperial and scientific finance, it very probably is. It is much simpler to tell him the truth that burns immortally in the breast of every plain, true-hearted Englishman. It is better to tell him that you do not want to go to Johannesburg, any more than to hell. That is what I have to say to the Bolshevist about the Bolshevist Utopia. But the point here is that it would take a long time to go into the merits and demerits of the bicycle, whereas it takes a very short time indeed to dismiss the merits and demerits of the South African city. To get to the ideal is to get to the goal, and be done with it. To linger on the practical process may be interminable. The idealistic method is businesslike. The businesslike method is the devil of a business. In the same way, the really swift and simple modes of attack on Marxian materialism and collectivism is simply pointing out that it is ugly, not proving that it is unpractical. It is in preventing people from desiring what the innovators think desirable, much more than in merely prophesying whether they can get what they desire. For a prophecy, however practical, is always arbitrary and mystical, whereas a desire is a definite and objective fact, like a dog or door-knocker. All men know what they want, but only inspired seers know whether they can get it. If men want property and liberty and the life of the distributive state, as we maintain, we will attempt to follow it up by proving it to be practical and probable. But if men do not want collectivism and regimentation and compulsory labor and the rest of the Bolshevist utopia, then it will be a waste of our time to prove it impossible. None of us will sit down to discuss the baffling difficulties of starting a pestilence or the little hitches and worries in the way of procuring a mad dog. There is a truth, probably unconscious, in the common phrase that utopian revolutionists hope to make a new heaven and a new earth. It is true that nobody makes a new earth without first making a new heaven, and this is no more specially true when the heaven is full of gods and angels than when the heaven is empty of everything but ether and stardust. It is quite as true when the heaven is only an abyss or bottomless pit of space. It is quite as true when the heaven is rather like hell. The higher thing, towering over the earth and typifying the general nature of the universe, is still the dominant condition and determining factor in all the earthly regulations and reforms. The heaven of the atheist makes the earth of the atheist, as much as the heaven of the saint makes the earth of the saint. The basis of the whole Marxian business is the religion of monism and materialism. Every man gets his economics from his religion. Only this religion is so laboriously topsy-turvy as to teach the opposite. The notion that the religion came from the economics. The answer to this is really quite simple. The Marxian socialist says that mental states come only from material conditions, to which I reply that his material conditions are bad by his own account, and therefore his mental conclusions are wrong by his own argument. If the situation makes the soul, and if it is a bad situation to be a proletarian, then it is probably a worse situation to be a class-conscious proletarian. If capitalism is a mood of material origin, socialism is a mood of the very same material origin, and that admittedly a very bad and misleading origin. If economics produces ethics, we have no more reason to trust the psychology of a proletarian brought up in a capitalist state than that of a capitalist brought up in a capitalist state. The truth is that this is one intrinsically impossible and intolerable school of thought, because it is thought against thinking. The man who says that ideas are mere material results has in that very sentence destroyed all ideas, including that one. But there is an even deeper element among these elements of the case. It is perhaps the element of emotion rather than thought. Why should a man want to maintain that his will is a blind plant of the swamp, or that his ideals are idols made of mud? Why should men desire to entertain such a dogma as the materialist version of history? I do not speak here of puzzle-headed skeptics who reluctantly digest such dogmas, because they cannot reason their way out of them, but of men who shout them like a war cry and intone them like a creed. We can only say that there seems to be some such pessimistic perversity and spiritual suicide, and that this sect must be counted among the strange sects so afflicted. In practical fact, I think they are often fighting against very real plutocratic tyranny. But in truth there are two very different fights against tyranny. There is the revolt against the tyrant by the slave, and there is the revolt against the tyrant by the free man. What Nietzsche said of Christianity, what was emphatically not true of Christianity, actually is true of Marxian materialism. It is a slave morality, a protest against particular authorities made by the spirit of slavery, and not by the spirit of liberty. For if it were really working from the love of freedom, it would certainly begin with free will. End of section 42.
The United States Steel Corporation, 500,000 employees and stockholders, presents the Theater Guild on the Air. The United States Steel Corporation presents the Theater Guild, one of America's foremost theatrical producers, bringing into your home every Sunday evening from the stage of the Vanderbilt Theater in New York the most famous plays of Broadway. Tonight, as a special Christmas offering, we bring you Louisa May Alcott's beloved story, Little Women, starring Katharine Hepburn as Jo, and featuring Oscar Homolka as the Professor, John Lodge as Brooke, Frances Reed as Meg, Judith Parrish as Amy, Susan Douglas as Beth, and Elliot Reed as Laurie. And here is Lawrence Langner, co-director with Teresa Hepburn of the Theater Guild, to tell you something about the play and the players. Mr. Langner.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure most of you listening tonight remember Jo, Amy, Beth, and Meg, the four March girls immortalized by Louisa May Alcott in Little Women. Their shy romances and courage and adversity have endeared them to generations of Americans. Little Women is classified as fiction, but it's pretty common knowledge that Miss Alcott was writing about her own family. And of course, in the case of the resolute auburn-haired Joe, she was writing about herself. I can think of no more fitting play for Christmas than Little Women, because in tender fashion, in the fashion of 3/4 of a century ago, it's a simple and eloquent argument for kindness and goodwill. I think it's fitting, too, that tonight Katharine Hepburn should play Jo, a role in which she was most successful on the screen. Kate Hepburn is a great favorite with the Theater Guild. I'm sure many of you enjoyed her in our stage productions of Jane Eyre, The Philadelphia Story, and Without Love. Our cast tonight also includes Oscar Homolka, one of the stars of the Broadway success I Remember Mama. He plays the part of the professor. And now the curtain rises on Little Women.
Late afternoon on a Christmas day many years ago in Civil War times. We're in New England, in the home of the March family. By the light of the fire, we can see 4 girls grouped together. 3 are sitting rather primly in their chairs sewing, but the 4th is lying on the floor with her long legs, dressed in pantalettes, stretched out. She reminds you a little of a healthy young colt. Looking up at the ceiling, she says,
Christopher Columbus, it's awful to be poor. I don't like it one bit.
That's Jo.
Joe, I wish you wouldn't lie on the floor. The time comes when we have to put aside such romping ways. And please, don't say Christopher Columbus.
That's Meg, a proper young lady very conscious of the approach of womanhood.
Still, Joe's right. It isn't fair for some girls to have pretty things. Pretty boots, pretty gloves, pretty petticoats, and pretty handkerchiefs, and for us to have nothing.
And that's Amy, a little vain and fond of luxury.
Still, we have each other, and we have Mommy, and we have Father, even though he's far away.
And that's Beth, who loves her piano and is a ray of sunshine in the house. And there, grouped together on a Christmas day in Civil War times, are the Little Women.
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, around yon virgin mother and child.
How well I remember it. It seems so long ago. Father was away serving as a chaplain to the armies at the front. Mommy had tried all the harder to make it like one of the old Christmases. She'd fixed us a wonderful Christmas breakfast. Sausages, popovers, pie. But at the last moment, we learned about a family who were even harder up than we. So we took them our breakfast. And then it didn't seem like Christmas at all. And for a while we just sat, feeling glum. But then something happened, a great event in our lives. The doorbell rang. We looked at each other, wondering. Mommy went to the door.
Yes?
How do you do? Mr. Lawrence next door sends his compliments. He heard about your children giving away their breakfast, so he sent this by way of appreciation and to make up for what they've done.
Why, Open it.
They'll like it. It's awfully good. Goodbye.
Children, look, a dinner for you. Cranberry ice cream. Oh, to think that Mr. Lawrence sent it.
They hardly know us. They've never even paid the slightest attention to us.
We've never even spoken with them.
I'm sure it was all the boy's idea since he brought it.
Oh, he did look nice.
What does it all mean? Maybe it means they want to know us better. That's what we hoped. Because for years we looked across longingly toward the fine Lawrence home next door. But the days went by and we heard no more from the Lawrences. Then one gray afternoon, the 4 of us were together. Meg, Amy, Beth, and I. Amy was drawing. Meg and Beth were knitting.
I do feel properly sad.
I'm as sad and drippy as the day.
So am I.
Christopher Columbus, I'm going to do something.
Joe, such slang.
I like strong words that mean something, and strong actions, too.
What are you going to do,
I
Joe?
don't know, but something. Are we going to sit here and be dismal?
What else can we do?
Believe me, when I'm a famous authoress and have made a lot of money from my stories, I'm not going to sit around feeling mopey and sighing and waiting for things to come to us. I'm going after whatever we want and deserve and should have.
Have you finished the story you were going to send away, Joe?
Almost. A couple of pages more and it'll be finished.
What else is going to happen?
Oh, just that... Well, Hugo gets a potion from the witch to make Zara love him, and another to kill Roderigo. The potions are switched. Hugo dies in agony. Then Roderigo in his cell tears his chains apart in a spasm of rapture and goes to confront Don Pedro. Don Pedro runs a sword through him. Roderigo rolls dead down the circular stairway, and Don Pedro hurls himself from the parapet to the rocks below. It's just a matter of cleaning up loose ends. 2 pages will do it.
Oh, it'll be wonderful.
Joe, it's the best you've ever written.
You ought to write a sequel.
She can't. The characters are all dead, lying on rocks and parapets.
I can easily think up more characters.
I wish the stories were a little more tender sometimes. Rodrigo never even had a chance to express his love for Zara.
Oh, we can assume they love each other. I want action, not love. Makes me sick the way women behave in stories.
How do they behave?
Dreadfully. First they blush all over the place. That means love has done its fatal work. Then the lovers start having keepsakes that they moon over. It's all disgusting.
Joe, such language.
I hope none of us ever start behaving that way. You remember that, girls, because if you do, I'll hate you. I'll just hate you.
If only things could happen in life like they do in stories. The nice things.
Well, why can't they? It's a matter of making them happen. Now, for instance, that house over there, the Lawrence Mansion. That's what I was thinking about.
What about? What do you mean?
Well, now, look. See up there? Bundled up. Laurie, they call him.
Oh.
He's been shut up since Christmas with a cold or something.
His old grandfather's awfully strict with him.
I know. Makes him study all the time, poor fellow. Looks like fun, too. His tutor will be in a little while, and they'll sit there with his lessons from 4 till 6. I'd watch them.
There are 4 men over there. A grandfather, a tutor, a boy, and a butler.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pay him a visit right now.
Joe, of all the improper suggestions.
Well, why not, Meg? We've lived next to them for years.
But we don't know them. We haven't been introduced.
I'm sure they want to know us. Why else would they send us that Christmas
That
feast?
was very kind of them, and Mommy has written to thank them.
Does it have to end there? Oh, it makes me angry. Now, look. I'm going to get a dish of blancmange, and I'll simply go over...
Joe,
and...
if you ever do such an unladylike thing...
What'll you do?
Mommy will be mortified.
She's often said it's nice to be neighborly, and I'm going to be neighborly.
Joe!
Anybody want to come?
Don't you dare. It's wrong. It's rash. It isn't nice.
Christopher Columbus, I'm going.
Master Lawrence, will you now explain to me the circumstances of Cataline's conspiracies as revealed in the orations of Cicero?
Cataline's conspiracy. Catiline conspired with some other people, didn't he?
Yeah, correct so far. Continue.
Let's see. Cicero...
Master Lawrence, your eye keeps wandering to the window of the house next door. Please keep your mind on your lesson.
I'm sorry, sir. It looks so jolly over there. At the window where the flowers are, they seldom close the curtains, and all grouped around like that with the light from the fire, it looks so cheerful.
Yes, no doubt. Continue.
Yes, sir. Catiline...
By Jove. That is a pleasing picture over there. The family group around the hearth.
Yes, sir.
Delightful. Now then, what were we talking about?
The rivers of France.
Oh, yes. Please name the 4 chief rivers of France.
No, we weren't, sir.
Huh?
We were talking about Catiline.
Catiline?
Yes,
Oh, yes. Yes?
Pardon me, Mr. Brooke, but a young lady from next door is here and says she's come to visit Master Lawrence.
What?
She has some blancmange with her.
Oh, jolly. Can't we let her in?
But Mr. Lawrence has given strict orders that the young master is to stay in the solarium and see no one except you, sir, for his lesson.
Quite right, he has. Until you're absolutely better.
But I'm all right, sir.
We'll have to say Master Lawrence is not receiving the master's orders.
I've told her, so now she insists on seeing the master. She says the orders are a great mistake, and she wants to tell him so.
Good heavens.
I think you'd better talk to her, Mr. Brooke.
I'd better. Master Lawrence, please stay here.
Is there anything I can do for you, miss?
Yes, sir, there is. I'd like to speak to Mr. Lawrence, please.
Well, he's in his study, and we never disturb him in his study.
Are you afraid of him?
Miss, we obey his instructions.
Which is his study? Because I'd like to speak to him a moment, and I'll go in myself, if you don't
Well,
mind.
really, I don't think that is,
Why are you all so afraid of him? I'm sure he's really a kind man at heart. I'm not afraid of him because he's already shown that
What's this? Who's not afraid of who?
Oh, Mr. Lawrence, I don't...
Mr. Lawrence, we were just talking about you.
Indeed?
Yes, sir. I was saying I was sure you were really a kind man at heart. After all, you sent us that wonderful dinner at Christmas time, and...
Ah, yes, my grandson's idea.
Well, I know that your grandson has been sick, and so I brought over some blancmange we made this morning. It'll slide down his throat easily, and...
How charming of you. Mr. Brooke, why are you standing here in the hall arguing with this young lady?
Well, sir, I don't know.
Everybody seemed to think I'd broken the rules of the household, so I wanted to talk to you, Mr. Lawrence. Sir, don't you think you're really too strict with the boy?
Miss March, I really think that
Just a second, Mr. Brooke. Let her go on.
You see, I think you have too many rules here. Your grandson so seldom gets out, and he studies so hard. Now, if he could come to our house for tea now and then and have some fun, I'm sure it would do him good.
So you think I'm too harsh with him, eh? And you're not afraid of me. Well, bless you. Maybe I do watch over him like an old grandmother. You see, we lost his father and mother long ago, and so he's my responsibility. But I'm sure no harm could come to him in that delightful home of yours, so I'll tell you what. Tomorrow the boy shall come to you for tea, if he won't be in the way.
Indeed, he won't.
You're very kind to invite him. And now, Mr. Brooke, will you escort this young lady safely back to her house?
I'm not a young lady, sir, and I don't need to be escorted.
Nonsense. You shan't go alone. Mr. Brooke.
Yes, sir. My arm, Miss March?
Well...
Give my regards to your family, Miss March.
Oh, I will indeed, sir. Don't you think it's a little silly escorting me 40 yards across the lawn to my own house?
Well, we couldn't let you go alone.
I've been running around here since I was a child.
Yes, but you're not a child now, miss. That is hardly.
Oh, look out for that ice, Mr. Brooke.
Oh, thank you.
You're Master Lawrence's tutor, aren't you, sir?
Yes, I am.
You must be very learned.
Well, the more one learns, the more one finds to be learned, Miss March.
How true that must be.
Miss March, you are the second of the four sisters?
Yes, I'm Joe. The oldest is Meg.
Oh, yes.
She's the pretty one with the blonde hair. She's lovely.
Meg. Oh, yes.
Well, here we are, Mr. Brooke. It was nice of you to...
Joe, did you actually...
Meg, dear. I'd like you to meet Mr. Brooke, Master Lawrence's tutor.
How do you do?
How do you do? I'm charmed. And now I must return. Good day, Miss March, and Miss March.
Good day, Mr.
Good day,
Brooke.
Mr. Brooke, and thank you.
Joe, how could you? How could you?
Oh, Meg, they were awfully nice to me. Really, Meg. Why, Meg, you're blushing. From that day on, we saw quite a bit of the Lawrence family. The boy Laurie often came to our house, but I couldn't have foreseen then all that my neighborly visit would lead to. One spring day in the garden with Laurie, I was reading him a story I'd just finished.
Go on.
The Count stood as one changed to stone, and turning to the bewildered crowd, Ferdinand added, with a mysterious smile upon his lips, "To you, my gallant friends, I can only wish that your wooing may prosper as mine has done, and that you may all win as fair a bride as I have by my masked marriage."
Joe, it's capital. Christopher Columbus.
I took it to the newspaper office yesterday. Nobody in the family knows I'm to hear the editor's verdict next week.
Josephine March, a real authoress.
If they use that story, they'll pay me $1.50 for it. In time, I can help support the family.
And now, I have a secret for you.
Well, out with it.
Oh, this is rich. You promise not to tell.
Come on now.
Well, you remember last week Meg was looking for a glove she lost?
At the party you gave, yup.
Well...
Have you found it?
No, but,
Why are you so mysterious?
I know where it is.
Where?
Well...
Come on, tell me.
Mr. Brooke.
What about him?
His pocket.
You mean Mr. Brooke has it in his pocket?
His inside pocket. Mm-hmm. I caught him looking at it this morning. When I came in the room, he quickly stuffed it away and looked in the other direction. Well, what do you think?
But they've hardly ever spoken.
Well, that's not necessary.
I think it's dreadful.
Why, what's the matter?
It's awful. I don't know why you think it's so funny.
Oh, I thought it was jolly. I thought you'd be pleased.
Pleased? Oh, I hate this sort of thing. Love a business. I hate it.
I thought I was bringing you some plummy news.
Don't you see, Laurie? Our family's always been so close. We mean so much to each other. And now this means it's all going to change. If Meg leaves, it'll never be the same. It'll all break up and... Oh, I hope she doesn't go.
Joe, why should you feel that way?
I do, that's all.
Joe?
Yes, Mommy?
Could you come in the house a minute?
All right, Mommy.
There's something I must tell you.
Amy, Beth, come downstairs. Family meeting. Coming.
What's it about?
I don't know. Don't you know?
No, what is it, Mommy?
Well, you'll hear in a moment.
Coming. What's it about? We're all here now.
You look worried, Mommy.
Children, I want you to be brave. It's about your father.
Oh,
Father?
Mommy.
A telegram has just come.
A telegram?
Your husband is very ill in Washington Hospital.
Oh.
Please come at once.
Oh,
Now, don't cry, children. Now, above all, we must think clearly and quickly and face our tasks. I must leave for Washington tonight to be with your father. The train goes at 8 o'clock. Don't cry, Beth.
I won't, Mommy.
Joe, I've written a letter to Aunt March. For your father, I'm not ashamed to beg from our relatives. I've asked her for money for the trip here. Without it, I can't afford to go. Will you take it and do all you can to persuade her?
She'll croak about it something awful. She has such a temper.
I know, but we must try.
I'll go, Mommy.
Meg, I want you to get my black leather trunk from the attic.
What's this? A trip to Washington? Stuff and nonsense.
Aunt March, you must.
Oh,
please.
I always said it was foolishness, your father trotting off to war.
Aunt March, I beg you.
I told him wars are won by soldiers, not chaplains.
Aunt March, listen, please.
Now, maybe next time he'll listen to me and not go off, leaving others to look after his family and treat them to trips to Washington.
Aunt March, you have no right to put it that way. Father is sick.
Silence, girl, and mend your manners. Trip to Washington, I say again, rubbish, stuff and nonsense.
Mommy, why isn't Joe back yet?
I can't imagine. I'm beginning to get worried. What can she be doing, children?
I don't know. She's been gone so long.
I have to go soon.
Oh, isn't it just like Joe suddenly to disappear when... Oh, the door.
I'll answer it.
Madam,
Oh, yes, Mr. Brooks.
Mr. Lawrence, hearing of your trip, has just commissioned me to go to Washington to transact for him certain necessary business there. And, since we shall be traveling on the same train, he instructed me to place myself at your disposal and offer myself as escort for the journey. Whatever I can, I shall do, both on the journey and in Washington.
Oh, Mommy.
How generous. Will you thank Mr. Lawrence? I accept gratefully.
Oh, I am glad, madam.
You don't know how reassuring this is to us, Mr. Brooks.
I am happy to be of service, Miss Meg.
The journey to Washington can be a fearful experience, I'm told.
Oh, yes.
The constant shaking in the dust and the spring rain.
Yes, indeed.
Sometimes there are floods, I know, and whole bridges collapsing.
And portions of the track washed away and simply disappearing.
And just knowing that you will be watching over Mother will be a great comfort.
Thank you, Miss Meg, and may I say...
Mommy!
Oh, Joe, there you are, dear.
Oh, thank goodness I'm on time. Oh, Mommy, Aunt March was simply dreadful. She simply said no, just a flat no, so
But dear, she did send money over. One of her maids brought it. She must have changed her mind. She sent enough for the train fare.
Oh, she did? Well, you're going to need a lot more than that, and this'll help you. You can buy something Father needs with it.
With what, dear?
Here, take it.
Heavens, Joe!
$25.
25? Why, Joe!
My word.
Wherever did you get it?
Look.
Oh, Joe, your hair, your beautiful hair.
Yup. I sold it to the wig maker. He gave me that for it. Snipped it right off.
Joe, it was your crowning glory.
No man will ever be stirred by you now.
Oh, well, what do I care for such nonsense? Father is sick. He needs help. I wanted to help him. Besides, It'll do my brains good to get that mop off them.
Joe, how can you say that about your hair?
Oh, Joe, let me hug you, girl. It was a fine thing you did to sacrifice your greatest beauty.
Now, Mommy, you'd better be going for the train.
Oh, Joe, that impetuous spirit of yours that leads to such kind, impulsive deeds. It could also lead to trouble. Watch it when I'm gone, girl.
Yes, Mommy.
Meg, dear, my womanly Meg, your heart rules your head. See that it doesn't when it shouldn't.
I shall, Mommy.
Beth, your only fault is fear of what lies before you. Have courage, Beth.
I will, Mommy.
Amy, we all think so well of you that you sometimes think too well of yourself. Be careful.
Yes, Mommy.
Now, I must leave you. Be what your father wanted you to be. His little women.
So for the first time in our lives, we were left alone. News came from Washington that Father was improving, and we breathed more easily. Mr. Brooks sent us stiff little bulletins every day, signed.
Your faithful and obedient servants, John Brooke.
Meg read them aloud over and over again, including the signature. And so, though they were miles apart, this threat to our family seemed to grow and grow, and my heart stood still with fear as I watched her. Then Meg, Amy, and I were sitting at home early one evening. Beth was out, but Laurie was with us.
Joe, stop gloating over that check.
Oh, how can I help it? $1.50. It'll pay for some medicine for Father.
Of course.
And the next time, they'll give me more.
Now, this is what I would call a snippy nose.
Amy, what on earth are you doing?
Is she at that business again? Amy, I wish you wouldn't.
What is it?
I'm drawing noses.
What?
I don't like my nose.
So she spends time drawing noses she'd like to have if she could choose a different one.
Now, here's an upsy-daisy little nose that I don't like, but some men might.
Amy, really? Talking about men and whether they'll like you.
Horrid, isn't she?
I know you don't like love.
Now, girls, really.
Beth
is back.
Why's she knocking?
That's funny. I'll open it. Well, come in. What's the matter? Stand back. Don't come near me. What is
Beth.
it? You stand back and I'll come in. All right.
What is it, Bessie?
Mercy, Beth, tell us.
I went to the Hummels again. Family mother was looking after the baby has been sick. Tonight I held her while Mrs. Hummel went for the doctor. She died in my arms.
Oh, you poor girl.
Oh, Amy hasn't had scarlet fever. She must stand back.
Heavens.
Have you had it, Laura?
Yes, I have.
So have I. Beth, you've been over there 3 times this week, haven't you?
Yes, I have a fever. Doctor told me to come home at once.
Bethy, darling, sit down. Your head is like an oven. I'm afraid... Amy, you've got to leave now. Go to Aunt March.
I don't want to.
You must. You've got to.
But I don't want to
Amy,
leave.
please be...
Come, Joe. We've got to get Beth to bed.
Yes, come on, Bethy, to your room.
I'm all right.
Come, dear. We'll help you.
That's it. We'll get you into bed, dear. We'll get you into
They're
bed.
right, Amy. You've got to leave.
Can't I help?
Not here, you can't. Why, if you get it too, it'd be a catastrophe. This is a bad thing.
Still, I wish
Now, Amy, look, you can help most by going. Look, I'll follow the example of the worthy Mr. Brooke. I'll put myself in charge of bulletins, and every day I'll drop in on you and let you know how things are.
Will you, Laurie?
Why, of course. And I'll do even more. I'll bring you surprises.
Oh.
I'll bring you a flower from our garden every day. And I'll bring you pictures of handsome men and women with interesting noses.
Do you promise, Laurie?
Of course.
Well, I'll go then.
Good girl.
Laurie.
Yes, Joe?
Laurie. Could you go for our doctor, Dr. Bang?
Of course, at once. Look, Amy's going to be sensible and go to your aunt's.
I'm glad, Amy.
I'll go right
now. Wait
now.
a minute. Before you go, one thing. We mustn't write a word to Mommy. If we did, she'd come at once and leave Father. That would be dreadful.
I'm afraid she would.
So not a word. Oh, I could lash myself. If I hadn't been so intent on my stories, I'd have been going to the Hummels instead of Beth. Each time, all 3 of us left it to her.
Joe, don't blame yourself.
We'll make it up if we can.
Joe, if there's anything I can do, please understand. All I want is to help you in every possible way.
Oh, thanks, Laurie. The crisis came a week later. Beth was very sick, and one day as she lay on her bed mumbling incoherently, we finally sent a wire to Mommy. We waited anxiously for her to come. That night, none of us slept. Mr. Lawrence paced in the living room downstairs. Laurie lay on the hearth rug. Meg and I stayed in the room with Beth, sleeping in turns at the foot of her bed. The hours went by. What's she doing? With her hands, look. She's playing the piano on the bed covers. Can you tell the tune? It's what she always played. Sing it to her, Meg. She's smiling, Meg.
Oh, Meg, don't. I'm so wicked, Joe. No, you're not, Meg.
I am. That day Beth went to the Hummels when I wouldn't go. It was because I wanted to sit home and read Mr. Brooks' letters over and over. It was wicked of me.
Meg.
I've only talked to him 3 or 4 times. Mother said that my heart rules my head. She was right. Oh, Joe, if Beth gets better, I'll never let myself have such thoughts again.
Don't say that, Meg.
God, help Beth get better. There's nothing I won't do. Amen.
Meg, she's breathing more easily.
Oh.
Her forehead is cooler. She's sleeping naturally. The change has come, Meg.
Oh.
There's the carriage.
It's stopping at our door.
That's Mommy, and there's Father, too. They've come.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, Meg, they've come in time.
The curtain has fallen on the first act of the Theatre Guild production of Little Women, presented by U.S. Steel and starring Katharine Hepburn. Before our play continues, here is George Hicks with a Christmas message.
The night was dark and cold, and there was snow on the hills of Judea as a weary man led a donkey into the outskirts of a town in southern Palestine. He and his wife had come a long way. According to the Romans, the date was 754. According to our calendar, it was 1 day B.C., and the man and his wife were named Joseph and Mary. Through the crowded streets of Bethlehem, they went to the inn, but it was filled and there was no room for them. So they took refuge in the only place they could find, a warm stable. And there in the stable, a boy was born. A manger was his crib. At about that time, 3 wise men entered the city of Jerusalem. They said that they'd been led by a star out of the east to find the newborn child who would be king of his people. And they bore gifts of gold and incense for the infant. The 3 wise men were directed to Bethlehem because an ancient prophecy had foretold the birth of the ruler there. In the stable, as the happy parents were admiring their firstborn, shepherds came, bringing presents. They told how they'd been tending their sheep on the hills around Bethlehem when an angel appeared and said, "I bring you tidings of great joy. This day is born a Savior, Christ the Lord." The angel had sent them to the stable. And then the sky was filled with angels saying, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men."
Glory to God! Glory to God in the highest! And peace on earth. Goodwill and Lord's men.
We pause now for station identification.
You're listening to KECA Los Angeles.
The curtain rises on the second act of Louisa M. Alcott's classic story, Little Women, starring Katharine Hepburn as Jo and featuring Oscar Homolka as Professor Baird, John Lodge as Brooke, Frances Reed as Meg, Judith Parrish as Amy, Susan Douglas as Beth, and Elliot Reed as Laurie. It's a few weeks later in the home of the Marches.
Get ready, Betty. Here comes Father now. Oh, Daddy comes marching home again. Hooray, hooray. Daddy comes marching home again. Hooray, hooray. The girls will sing and the boys will shout and the ladies, they will all turn out and we'll all feel gay when Daddy comes marching home.
To think I've heard my 4 girls singing together again. How good that sounded with my little Beth at the piano again. Are you all right, Beth?
Oh, yes, Father.
But now, Father and Bethy are going back to bed. Come, Beth.
Yes, Mommy. It was so good to get up and all be together again.
The most joyful reunion party that ever happened.
Now you must rest, both of you.
We'll go with you, Beth. Thanks, Meg. Amy.
Come, dear.
Come in.
Joe, why so solemn-faced about a celebration?
It's wonderful they're both getting well.
Well, then why the gloomy countenance?
This house is full of suspense and foreboding. There's an unfinished matter to be settled. It hangs over us like a sword.
You mean Brooke and Meg?
Yes. Mommy came back calling Mr. Brooke John.
Really?
Down in Washington, he spoke to her and Father, wondered if he might, at the proper time, address his attentions to Miss Margaret. They said yes.
Wonderful. Well, have you finally reconciled yourself to the idea?
Of course I haven't. I hate it.
Why, Joe, do you want me to make you a wager? I'll wager you'll be next, Joe.
Please, Laurie, don't say that. Don't you see what's happening? Our whole family is going to smash.
Don't be so melodramatic about it, Joe. I guess I'd better let you get over your gloom, so I'll clear out. What? Joe, look there in the hall. Old Brooke left his umbrella in your umbrella stand, the sly dog. I'm sure it's an excuse to come back at the proper moment.
Miss Margaret.
Oh, Mr. Brooke.
Forgive the intrusion. I hope it's not untimely. I came to inquire about your father. That is, I came for my umbrella. That is,
He's in the umbrella stand. I mean, it's doing very nicely, thank you.
Oh, Miss March. It's so good to see you laughing and happiness returning to this home.
We owe much of it to you, sir.
Oh, does that mean that I might share in this joy?
One surely deserves the happiness one brings to others.
Margaret,
Mr. Brooke.
Are you afraid of me, Margaret?
How can I be afraid of one who's been so good to Father?
Margaret, do you suppose, is it possible? Can it be? Oh, Margaret, I love you. I love you.
Now, look, Joe, I've been trying to talk to you.
I know you have,
You
Laurie.
keep running away from me.
I know I do.
Now, sit still for a moment, Joe. We've got to have this out.
No, let's not, Laurie. We're such good friends. Don't you see?
I don't see. That's just what I mean. Oh, look, Joe. After a little more schooling, Grandfather's going to put me to work in one of his offices and...
Laurie, please don't go on.
But this is what I've been trying to say.
I wish you wouldn't.
Joe, for months I've been in and out of this house. Do you think I had any reason for coming except to see you? I love you, Joe. Won't you marry me?
That's what I was afraid of.
Why?
Oh, Laurie, I didn't want it to come to this. I so much wanted that you shouldn't get hurt. You've meant so much to me that...
But that's what I mean, Joe. What we mean to each other.
Laurie, I don't love you.
Well, couldn't you learn to?
No. Love doesn't come that way. I'm so terribly sorry.
Well, this is kind of a jolt. I've banked on this for such a long time.
You mustn't anymore, Laurie.
This isn't something a person can just put aside. I'll ask you again, Joe.
And so you see, Mommy, I've got to get away.
Away?
I'm so horrid and restless, and with things as they are with Laurie, I've got to leave.
What do you want to do, dear?
Mommy, you remember that Mrs. Kirk and her 2 children? She went to New York to start a boarding home.
Yes?
Well, I thought I might write to her and ask for a position as governess. Then I could be in New York and get more ideas for stories. I've sold 3 stories now, and I'm sure I could get along. That's what I want to do, Mommy. I've got to get away.
Perhaps it would be best for both you and Laurie.
Poor Laurie. I feel as if I'm stabbing my best friend.
Well, I want you to value your freedom till you tire of it, because only then will you learn there is something better.
Oh, thank you, Mommy. You see, I want action, not love. I wrote to Mrs. Kirk, and she gave me a position. I arrived in New York on a clear fall day, and I felt the world was before me. My room was a skylight room with a simple bare table to work at. Mrs. Kirk's children were a handful, but my evenings were my own, and then I worked like a demon. At first, I didn't speak very much to other people at the boarding house. But one day, a man was playing a piano in the parlor. I stopped, standing in the doorway, listening. He was an Austrian professor.
Oh, excuse me. I did not see you.
Oh, please don't stop. It's so beautiful. What's the name of it? I'd so love to send it to my sister Beth.
The music is Tchaikovsky for a poem by Goethe. Nur wer die Sehnsucht kennt, weiß, was ich leide.
Nur wer die
Wait, I give you in English. None but the lonely heart can know my sorrow. Alone and parted, far from joy and gladness, my senses fail. A burning fire devours me. None but the lonely heart can know my sadness.
My senses fail. A burning fire devours me. He means he can hardly bear the beauty in his heart because of his longing.
That is it. And Tchaikovsky felt that as you feel it. And so he makes this music that is so heartbreaking and so beautiful.
How I wish I could write something like that. Something splendid that would set other hearts on fire.
That is genius. It is not given to all, that so divine gift. But you wish to write, my little friend?
Yes, I do. That's my longing. And I'm not doing too badly. I've sold 2 stories since I've been here.
That is good, good. Could I read them, perhaps?
Oh, would you? I'd so love to have your opinion.
I should be happy. You have the ardent spirit. I like that. Where have these 2 stories appeared?
A magazine, the Weekly Volcano.
Weekly Volcano? I do not think I know this.
You probably haven't come across it.
You let me have the stories. I would love to read them.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Morning, Miss March.
Good morning, Mamie. Mamie, are you going in to clean the professor's room?
Try to. Kind of hopeless, if you see what I mean.
I see what you mean.
Books, papers.
Pipes and old flutes. What's that half-finished boat over there?
Something he was making for the kids. He's always making something. Come in, that's all right. Everybody walks in down here. He likes it.
Oh, no. I just wanted to leave my stories for him. Only I don't know where to put them. They'd be lost in all this.
Up there on the mantelpiece. He'll see them there.
With these books?
Sure.
Shakespeare, Dante, Homer, Plato? I wouldn't dare. Oh, well, there they go. The Weekly Volcano, The Greek Slave, or Constantine the Avenger, etc.
Look, the poor man.
Why, he's been donning his own socks.
Sure, there ain't nothing he don't do. Always working, always helping somebody. You know what he's doing here, don't you?
No, what?
We found out by accident. He's really a famous professor from the University of Vienna, mind you. And he left that and came over here to look after his 2 orphan nephews. Oh, what he don't do for those children. Such a good man. He'd probably be in some university here, and he came not knowing much English, so he stays here and gives lessons.
Mamie, give me a couple of those socks. He needn't know. I'll fix them up, and you can slip them back when they're done. But, don't tell him, please.
Not a word.
Miss Marsh? Josephine Marsh?
What is it, Mrs. Kirk?
Some visitors here for you.
Oh, yes, I'll be right down.
They're in the parlor.
Amy. Joe. And Aunt Marge.
Good afternoon, Josephine.
Oh, I'm so glad to see you. What a wonderful surprise. How did it happen? What's it about? Oh, I'm so happy. Joe, you look fine. And so do you, and you too, Aunt Marge.
Stuff and nonsense. I don't do anything of the sort. I'm an old woman, and my bones are gouty. Why should I go around looking like a young chit?
You do to me, Aunt Marge.
Rubbish, utter rubbish.
How is Mommy and Father?
And how is Bessie?
Beth is better, but she's not as rosy as she used to be.
Oh, why doesn't my Bessie get strong?
I don't know. Joe, guess where we're off to?
Where? Tell me.
Europe. Oh, Amy, how wonderful.
Yes, we're taking my old bones to Vichy to try the waters. I'm taking Amy for the trip.
Also to look after you.
Nonsense, I can look after myself. All I seem to do is to provide transportation for your impoverished family. Trips to Washington, trips to New York, trips to Europe.
You're awfully good to us, Aunt Marge.
Well, I don't mean to be. And it wouldn't be necessary if you weren't all so addle-pated. Meg gets married. She doesn't marry. A poor tutor, yes, she does. And you snub the wealthiest young man in town. Mark my words, someday you'll all learn to take my advice.
Maybe we will, Aunt Marge.
Joe, did you see Laurie when he was here?
Laurie? In New York?
You mean he didn't come to see you?
No, I never saw a sign of him.
He went on a business trip with his grandfather. They're in Paris now. Maybe we'll see them there. But he'll be back home soon.
Laurie in New York and never came to see me.
Well, what do you expect, you willful girl, after the way you treated him?
We were such good friends.
He was awfully hurt, Joe, when you left. But he still loves you. Oh, Joe, if you just let him know, somehow I know he'd...
No, Amy, it's nothing like that.
Do you want to go in my place, Joe? You ought to, really, and then maybe you'd see him.
Oh, no, of course not. I wouldn't think of it.
Well, we have to be at the steamship office before it closes. Come, Amy.
Come in. Oh, Professor.
Miss March, I have read these stories. You would like perhaps to discuss them?
Oh, yes, I would like to. Come in, won't you?
Good.
You look a little frightening. Did you like the stories?
I must be honest. I was disappointed.
You were?
Now, this, what is it called?
The Curse of the Coventrys, Constantine the Avenger?
Yes. Miss March, why do you write these artificial characters? Villains, vipers, murderesses, witches. Oh, such women. Miss March, why don't you...
Well, I tried.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not mean to hurt you. What a blundering fool I am. Forgive me.
Please, it isn't that. Don't pay any attention to me. It's just that I've made a mess of everything as I always do. But I never thought Laurie... Well, I never thought he'd come to New York.
Laurie? Is this your very good friend?
Yes, in a way. He came to New York and never even saw me. But then, why should he?
I see. And then on top of that, the professor comes blundering and makes things worse.
No. If I can't stand the truth, I'm not good for anything. I didn't think the stories were very good. But the Curse of the Coventrys was the blessing of the Marches. And Constantine the Avenger paid the butcher's bill. And the Duke's daughter is going to send Beth to the mountains next summer where she ought to be. And
That is what I have thought. And so I said to myself, maybe I have no right to speak. And then I have thought, no, I have no right to be silent. For look you, Miss March, you have talent.
Oh, do you really think so?
Otherwise I would not say it. But be true to that talent. Sweep mud in the street before you cheapen it. While you are young, write about the things in your heart. The brave, simple things you understand now. And maybe later, when you know the weight of sorrow and on the human heart, then you can write of those poor, wretched murderers and make them live and breathe with your pen, as Shakespeare did. Look, I brought him for you. I give you this book. Between these covers is a whole library. Read it, and he will help you.
Oh, thank you. I'll try.
And you are not angry with the blundering professor who takes the wrong time for his lectures?
No, I'm so grateful. And I'm happy that you would talk to me
Miss
so.
March, I sometimes get from a friend seats for the Academy of Music. Would you accompany me sometimes?
Oh, I'd love it. In the following weeks, we went out often together. To concerts, then to plays and museums and operas. Forgotten were the weekly volcano and the curse of the Coventrys. But instead, I was suddenly filled with the beauty of Mozart, Beethoven, Rembrandt, and Leonardo. Filled, and a little giddy, too, perhaps. I remember one evening as we came back late to the boarding house in the hall downstairs.
Oh, it is good to see you so flushed and happy.
Oh, I've had a wonderful time, Professor. I've made up my mind. I've decided to be an opera singer.
Wait, don't decide yet. After the circus, you felt a bareback ride that was the most beautiful of all careers. And after the museum, you decided to be a painter.
But I'm going to be all of them. Oh, Professor, you're fun to be with. I wish you could meet my family. They'd enjoy you. I keep writing them all about you.
You do?
Oh, yes, and they always ask questions about you in their letters.
Indeed?
Oh, yes. For example, Why, look at that. A telegram for me. Mrs. Kirk must have left it here. Oh, no.
My little friend, what is it?
It's my sister, Beth. Mother says I must come home right away.
I'm very sorry.
Yes, I'll pack tonight. I'll leave on the morning train.
What can I do for you?
Well, you'll be busy with your lessons in the morning.
But when will I see you? You will be back?
Well, I don't know, Professor. You see, the writing, the weekly volcano and all that, I burned those up. There's nothing left of all that work but ashes. All that is finished. And if I'm not going to write those, I can't really afford to live here.
I can't tell you how all this grieves me.
Professor, will you come and see us sometime?
May I? Shall I?
Yes, I want you to.
Tell me, your sister and that friend in Europe, are they back yet?
They're on their way, I think.
I see.
Yes. This is awfully sudden, isn't it?
Terribly sudden.
Poor Beth. What do we hear from Amy, Mommy?
She'll be home next month. Tell me something, Joe.
What, Mommy?
Would it hurt you terribly if you learned that Laurie had learned to care for somebody else?
Amy?
Well, I was only reading between the lines. Amy's letters have said a lot about Laurie, and we've had letters from Laurie, too, full of Amy.
Laurie and Amy.
Would it hurt you terribly?
Wouldn't I be selfish if it did? Laurie and Amy. It's wonderful, isn't it, Mommy? It's right, isn't it? It's really fine.
I hope you feel that way, because that's how I think it will be.
Mommy was right. Laurie and Amy came back husband and wife, hilariously happy, knowing that they always really loved each other and always had been meant for each other. And they set up housekeeping in a beautiful little house nearby. Then there were just Beth and I.
Sit with me, Joe.
I'll never leave you, Bethy.
Joe, you always reminded me of a seagull, fond of the wind and dreaming of flying far out to sea. Mommy said I was more like a cricket, chirping contently at home. I guess very soon I'll be home forever.
Beth closed her eyes. She slept quietly, and she never woke again. And we laid her to rest. Then it was November. The snow fell quietly and gently in our town. Our house was very quiet. But soon there began preparations for another Christmas, and Meg and Amy, Brooke and Laurie were in and out. And I didn't know which was harder to bear, the loneliness or the laughter. I only know that I began to go for long walks. And sometimes I went up into the garret again, where I'd written my very first stories, and wrote a few words. And one time I showed them to Mommy and Father.
Why, dear, this is fine. It's
Joe,
so different.
it's beautiful.
Why, Father, you have a tear in your eye.
It's so fine, Joe.
But this isn't anything. It's nothing I've done. It's just everything about you and Mommy and Meg and Amy and Betty. Things I remembered you all saying and doing. And I sent it off, and it was printed at once. And again I went tramping through the winter snow. Only the snow was turning to sleet and rain, and the world was dismal. I was very, very lonely. Except that everywhere was the merriment of Christmas. And then, just a step from home...
Miss Joe!
Professor!
Miss Joe, I come to see you.
Oh, my friend. My friend. How did you know? How did you know I wanted to see you above all else?
I said I would come.
Yes, and you have. I hoped you would.
But what do you do without any umbrella in this terrible weather? Here, come under mine.
I will. Here
That's
I
it.
am. It's turned to rain.
And raining harder.
Come to our house is just this way. Oh, Professor, how did you happen to come?
I have been invited by a nearby college to discuss a position they offer me.
Christopher Columbus, that's fine.
Also, I read somewhere one of your stories. It made me feel you had found yourself and were no more restless and discontented.
But my name wasn't on that story.
It was about your family, no?
Yes, it was. It was.
You have told me of them, and at once I recognized them, and I knew it was you, a different you.
That's right. Thanks to you, Professor. Oh, I've missed you so. I've been so lonely for you.
Is that true?
Yes, Professor.
Then, would it be possible?
Yes.
Do you think that you and I...
Yes, Professor?
Here, hold the umbrella over you. You are getting wet.
I'm all right. Please go on with what you were saying, Professor.
This is your house?
Yes, this is our home, Professor.
They are making music inside.
Yes, they're all together.
Perhaps I'm through.
No, please don't go. Come in, Professor.
Joe, before we go in...
Yes?
I want to ask you...
Yes?
Oh, how stupid of me. I meant to stop at some stores for presents for you and your family. And now, Joe, I come with empty arms.
Not empty now, Professor.
Joe, I love you.
Heart's dearest. Welcome home.
The curtain has fallen on the Theatre Guild production, Little Women, presented by U.S. Steel and starring Katharine Hepburn. And here again is Lawrence Langner to tell you about next week's Theatre Guild play to be presented by United States Steel. Mr. Langner.
Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, we want to wish you all a very happy Christmas. And we send our special good wishes to all those actors and actresses who are away from their homes and families, playing in theaters all over the country and for our troops abroad. Since this is the holiday season, we have selected Walter Houston in Knickerbocker Holiday, the famous musical by Maxwell Anderson with music by Kurt Weill, for next Sunday's program. Walter Houston will play Peter Stuyvesant, the role he created on Broadway, and in which he'll sing the delightful September song, which has probably been responsible for more May and December marriages than anything on record. With Mr. Houston will be David Brooks from the Broadway success Bloomer Girl and Jean Darling from our own musical Carousel. And now here is Mr. Brokenshire again.
The United States Steel Corporation joins the Theatre Guild on the air in wishing every one of you a very Merry Christmas, and hopes you'll be with us next week at the same time, when we'll bring you Walter Houston in the musical play of Old New York, Knickerbocker Holiday. If you'd like program notes and cast list of tonight's Theater Guild on the Air, prepared for each broadcast with information about the play and the players, simply address U.S. Steel Corporation, Radio Department, 71 Broadway, New York 6, New York. The staff for the Theater Guild on the Air includes Homer Fickett, Director, George Condolph, Producer, and Armina Marshall, Executive Director of the Radio Department. Music for tonight's play was composed and conducted by Harold Levy, and the play adapted for radio by Eric Barnow. Your announcer, Norman Brokenshire.
This is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.
It's 8 o'clock at KECA, Los Angeles.